Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to the Friday night edition of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We're going to be joined by George J. Haas tonight. We're going to learn about Mars. What the hell's going on Mars? Well, George and his fantastic beard and mustache combination are going to find out the information for us tonight. We're going to have some fun with George in a minute. But first, we have to say hello to each and every one of you, including Kitty Caddywhack in the gold medal position, Race Fan with the silver, Tim Mothman and his goatee sharing a bronze medal tonight. Robert Lamoth, how are you? Road Flare, Cosmic Joe, Oob to Joe's Main. Oob will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Michael Morris, our attorney at large, how are you? As we continue on with our roll call here, we scroll on down next and we say hello to Miriam and Necessary Dialogue. How are you? Frankie B. T-Bone, my man. How are you? Thanks for coming on in. And Neil, nice to have you here as we continue on with our roll call. And number 28 in your program, starting on defense tonight from Stockholm, Sweden, Lars Jansson. There he is. He's already got 2 points in 2 games this season. Guy's flying already. Jaquetta, how are you? What in tarnation? What are you doing here? Nice to see you, my dear. Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. Moving on down, we got Skip to my Lou, and Mel WD-40 has arrived. He's lubing us up for tonight's show, because when you talk about Mars, you always want to go into a show nice and smooth. Thank you, Mel, for the lube tonight. We greatly appreciate it. Scrolling on down, we say hello next to, let's see here, J. True Seeker. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. How are you tonight? And Pam Harris, nice to see you. Bar Madison. Deborah Rooney is here. Deborah Rooney will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to your right of your studio, if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. Deb only signs in gold Sharpie. Only signs in gold Sharpie. So if you want something else, she ain't going to do it. Desert Rat, nice to have you here. Luscious Jules, nice to see you. Stargazer, thanks for coming on in. Ozzy Boss Tiger, how are you? Bon Patrick, how's it going, buddy? Nice to have you here. Kitty Caddywhack, thank you so much for kicking off the Super Chat tonight. The Super Chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you very, very much. Moving on down, Athena, nice to see you. And who is next on our list? Well, it's Phil Funk. How you doing? Welcome to SOR Chat. Walter Kochabinski, nice to see you. And who's next on our list here? Benno. Good to have you here. Hold on. I got a beard itch going on. It's not comfortable when you get a beard itch. No, it's not. And let's see here. Kurt W75, nice to have you here. And Butterfly Bear on X, welcome. How are you over there? And let's see, who else do we have? Dr. Bob's, nice to see you. B. Arthur, did you get my message? Hey, B. Arthur, you're golden, buddy. Did you get my message? Check your DMs. Oh, you just did. You just did. Nope. B. Arthur will be here for hour 3. Yeah, we got to have the Golden One's voice. Hold on. Let's get the radio side going. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We are in roll call right now, prepping for George J. Haas, where we're going to talk about Mars. Oh, it's going to be fun. Going to be a lot of fun. And Paul Nicholas, how you doing tonight? Good to see you. And let's see here. Who's next on our list? Al Garay over on Twitch. 1,400 pull-ups in 6.5 minutes to warm up for the Mars talk tonight. That's good. And who else is here? Well, scrolling on down. Running out of time. Necessary Dialogue, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate your love and support. And I'm Hardcore over on X. Nice to see you, my friend. Who else do we got here? Deanna Ann, nice to have you here. And Alexi, nice to see you. Throw those horns up. Let's rock.
Are you ready to hear your mystic voice of the night?
It's time to wake up.
He's here. Shush. Be quiet. He's ready for you to listen. Let's point our ears towards the little cabin in the woods, where together, my friends, we own the night. It's time for Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott.
From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We have an amazing show tonight because we're going to look up way up. And if you get that reference, you're as old as I am. Look up way up. Do you remember the Friendly Giant? You remember him? Or is that just us Canadians who remember him? Anyways, we're going to have George J. Haas here. We're going to talk about Mars. What was happening up there? What's going on up there? It's a fascinating topic. We'll get to him momentarily. Then in hour number 3, Swamp Dweller will kick things off. Then the man we call B. Arthur because he has a golden voice, Brent Thomas from the Paranormal Portal podcast, will be here hanging on out with us for the Q&A. So let's have some fun tonight, shall we? George J. Haas is the founder and premier investigator of the Mars research group known as the Cydonia Institute. A member of the Society for Planetary SETI Research, he has co-authored 2 books and 6 peer-reviewed science papers related to anomalous formations on the surface of Mars. He has appeared on many television and radio shows to discuss this major topic. And tonight, for the first time, he joins us on Spaced Out Radio. His website, the Cydonia Institute.com, if you want to check it on out. George J. Haas, welcome to Spaced Out Radio for the first time. How are you?
Pretty good.
It's good to have you here. A nice solid beard and mustache combination. That's what we like to see around here. You know, I know our radio audience can't see it, but you know, you can take my word for it. George, I mean, the love of Mars. How did this begin for you?
Well, I'm a graduate of the bicentennial class from high school in 1976. That was the bicentennial period of our country, back down here in America, the States. And NASA had put up 2 probes going to Mars, the Viking 1 and Viking 2. And, that summer of 1976, NASA had taken a picture of the Cydonia area, and they found an image, a formation that looked like a human head. And they had a press conference, and it was a big ordeal. Everybody was excited. And then they said, well, we took another picture a couple hours later and it disappeared. And basically that was the end of that story. But that's when I initially got involved in having this idea that possibly there's structures and maybe some lost civilization on Mars from my high school time. And through college and things like that, it was always in the back of my mind. And I didn't really get back into it until much later in the late 1990s when NASA decided to go back to Mars. So that's basically how this all started for me.
I think we all kind of have a fascination with the red planet, because all the movies growing up in our generations, if there was aliens or extraterrestrials, they all seem to come from Mars at that point. It was always very interesting that we think that there is life there, let alone some sort of civilization that may have lived and colonized on that planet many moons ago, pun intended. The love that you had as you started kind of looking into it and started taking it seriously, what made you kind of just give your own head a shift and say, you know what, there might be something here. There could be something I need to look at here.
Well, after I graduated high school, I went into art school. My academic training, I'm an artist. I'm not a scientist. I just want your listening audience to know that I'm not a scientist. I'm not a geologist. I'm not a physicist. I'm an artist. I went to school, studied art. In the 1980s, I exhibited up in New York, in Soho, and in the East Village area. I had a one-man show at the Ivan Karp Gallery. Now, Ivan Karp, he worked for the Leo Castelli Gallery back in the 60s. He was the one that discovered Andy Warhol and a lot of the big artists in the 60s. And so I was very happy to have a show at that gallery. I'm not a famous artist or anything, but that's basically my history. I'm an artist. I'm a sculptor, painter. So I have that visual eye. And looking at Mars, seeing, of course, the face on Mars, a sculptural image of a human face, that kind of really got my attention. And I really didn't get involved in really studying Mars until the Mars Global Surveyor mission went up. And that was in 1998 when NASA decided to take another picture of this famous face on Mars and, let's scotch this thing up once for good and prove to the world that this is just a pile of rocks. So that's what really got me studying this in late 1990s.
Going back to people, you've obviously talked to thousands upon thousands of people regarding this subject over the years. Why do we just fascinate about this planet?
Well, I think it's the history of Mars. A lot of, like you said earlier, a lot of the science fiction movies surrounded, even if this whole story wasn't about Mars, there was always this inclination in the film that whatever the creature was might have come from Mars. And so a lot of people are fascinated by it, especially with Percival taking, his telescope and seeing what he thought were canals and things like that. So we've always been intrigued with Mars. And in the back of our minds, we're always hoping that, well, maybe there was life on Mars and maybe someday we'll go there and find out.
Do you think we'll ever get there in our lifetime?
Well, I think we're on our way to Mars. Elon Musk, he's obsessed with building a colony on Mars. He got a little sidetracked with politics here in the beginning of the year. So I don't know what's going on with the plans with NASA and Elon Musk. They were going to do the Artemis mission and go back to the moon. The idea was they were going to have the first woman, walk down the ladder and go on the moon. And I don't know if that's been put on the back burner because I know Elon, he wants to bypass the moon and go right to Mars. But there hasn't been much talk of what they're doing in the last couple months that I know of. So it's all been, like I said, pushed to the back burner. I don't know what they're doing. But the plans are they'd like to set up a colony on Mars that we could, study the planet and possibly look for minerals and things like that. There's a lot of probably exotic type of minerals that we could be finding on Mars to use.
Well, if you look at Elon Musk for a second, everything that he has realistically done, we look at the technologies of Tesla or his Boring Corporation, his robotic company, his obviously his rocketry with SpaceX. It's all built for Mars. Because
Yes.
there's not going to be gas stations on Mars, but you know what? The cars will be able to charge, right?
Well, yeah, he's focused. That's what he wants to do. He thinks that it's time that we need to explore and put settlements on at least Mars to go that far. And I think within the next 10 years we're going to be there.
Man, I would love to see that in my lifetime. I really would. I think the one thing that kind of trips me out about us potentially, populating Mars is a study that I heard a couple of years ago where when humans get acclimated to Mars, they will never be able to come back to Earth because of the gravitational pull that is, you know, their bodies will not be able to handle Earth's gravitics, and that literally their bodies will eventually collapse on themselves. And I just found that really, really interesting that, Mars is really a one-way trip. Maybe not for humans in the future where, there will be intergalactic tourism, but the other way around isn't going to be able to work.
Well, I think initially it's going to be like the English over in England when they decided to go to the New World. They weren't coming back. It was a one-way trip. You're going to America and setting up the first 13 colonies. And I think once we get to Mars, either with Elon Musk or someone else, it's probably going to be the same type of thing. They're going to set up bases, colonies, and we may have a similar replay of history where we decide to settle on Mars with all these little colonies. And all of a sudden, now we have 13 states on Mars, and then they say, well, we don't want to be connected to Earth anymore. We want to run our own show, and then there's going to be a war. So it may be history repeating itself, but going to another planet. And I think that's probably the scenario. When you go to Mars, if I had the opportunity, or you, or whoever is going to go, it's not going to be that you're going to go to Mars for 3 months and come back. You're going to go there to stay and live.
Would you do it?
I'd love to do it, but I have a lot of ailments with my elbow and my knee, and I don't think I'd pass the physical. And I'm in my 60s. I don't think I'd be qualified.
No, but let's say you were 30 years younger, but you still had that awesome beard and mustache combination. Okay. Would you go?
Sure, I'd love to go. That's for me. It would be like going to the New World. I mean, who wouldn't want to go? I'd be right on the boat or the ship, however we're going to get there. I'm ready to go, and I'm going to stay there.
I wouldn't go.
You wouldn't go?
I wouldn't go. I would go for I would go to like the International Space Station or the moon. Totally do that, but Mars, it just I'm not a guy who likes finality on things.
I see. Well, I'd like to go there because I think there's a lost civilization there, which we'll probably talk about later. There's so much evidence of structures, and there's all of these ancient settlements that are up there, and they need to be explored. And that's one thing I'd love to go up there and look at, and start doing a little digging.
Oh man, I wonder what you would find up there. Because I don't believe for a second NASA has shown us anything. Well,
I think all the images that we get from the Mars Global Surveyor, the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, the new camera that's up there, I think these are all legitimate pictures that NASA's sending back. a lot of the people working at NASA, they're just looking at geology. They want to see how this history of the planet, what happened to it, how did it lose its atmosphere. Uh, they don't even have a thought that there might be structures up there. And so as for NASA hiding information, I don't think they're really hiding a lot because we have so much information. And I've been doing this for 30 years, and I have files full of structures that would blow your mind that NASA's taken pictures of. NASA is like a photographer that takes pictures of their surroundings and then sticks them in a drawer and doesn't talk about them. That's basically what
Yes,
they do. They don't
we've
really do much science or any discussion about what they're taking pictures of. They put them out there and let the public look at them. Occasionally, if there's some type of geological formation that scientists can delve into and figure out how this affects the surface and was this water area, oh, they're all into that. But if there's something up there that looks like a pyramid, five-sided pyramid, a three-sided pyramid, they don't have anything to do with it.
they've played dumb on the UFO subject for decades now, so it's not surprising.
Right. I think the next shoe to drop, they've already shown these UFO pictures that the Navy has taken, the Tic Tac and all these other oddities that the official, pilots have taken pictures of these things and filmed them. So we're pretty much, being enlightened about what type of vehicles that the government knows about. And I think the next thing they will be telling us probably in the next year or so that they found microbial life. That'll be the opening the door for us to understand what's on Mars. I think the first step will be saying they found these microbial things with the little rovers that are driving around. And after that, then they'll talk structures and artifacts.
The one thing that the NASA is very good at is giving you morsels rather than, proper information. Do you think that, with them coming out a couple weeks ago about the microbial, life on Mars, that they believe they had found it, do you believe that they are, taking the first steps to saying that maybe there was something else there?
Yeah, I think there'll be more and more information about the microbial life, but then you're going to have the critics in the scientific community will say, well, we've already contaminated Mars. That's why you're finding microbial life. So there'll be all this debate going back and forth. Are these actual microbial organisms that were indigenous to Mars, or is it something we have things that we have rovers that go there, and of course they're supposed to be sanitized. But the Russians have sent missions there. They've crashed. We have no idea what was involved in those missions. And that'll be the criticism, that once they are 100% sure they have little microbial things crawling around, the critics will say, well, we put them there. We brought them when we took the rovers and all of the crash satellites that happened there. And that's all that is. It's nothing to do with Mars. So we'll have to go through that. The only way we're going to have real concrete evidence about what's on Mars is to go there. And so I'm all for Elon Musk's mission to go there. So once you go there, it's going to be easy to look at this stuff.
What do you think would be the hardest challenge for humanity when we get there?
But I guess, living in the isolation. One thing that the colonies had when they came to America, they had, lions or the cougars, and they had wolves and bears to look out for. And of course, the indigenous people that were at times hostile and attacking them. They were attacking the Indians. So there were people there. Going to Mars, as far as I can see, there's nothing there. If there's anybody living there, it's the ETs. It's not indigenous people, because Mars is a dead planet. So I think it would be pretty safe to say that if you go there, you don't have to worry about animals eating you at night. It's just that you're going to be living in pretty harsh environment.
Do you think we'll be able to adjust, or do you think it's going to take years of robotics setting things up before we're able to actually plant humans on the ground?
Well, yeah, robotics will probably play a big part of it. Of course, humans are apt to get, space madness, the old Ren and Stimpy.
Good call. I will always take an analogy from Ren and Stimpy.
Space madness could be a problem, but we'll see how it goes. NASA's already doing experiments with these people living in these habitats, making believe they're on Mars to see how that goes. So they're already getting people ready for that trip. So we'll see what happens. I think they'll do well because they're military minded. They're trained to do this. It's not like they're just picking, school teachers or somebody that works at Walmart to go to Mars. They're all going to be people that have been trained, and people that are also possibly told that if you see any artifacts, do not touch them or tell anybody that you saw it.
Do you think, or how many rockets do you think it's going to take to get up there? I mean, we haven't even launched one. We're still in the testing phases. When I say we, I mean humanity, not you and me personally. We know it's SpaceX. But how many do you think, how many rockets do you think are going to have to get up there before we're even able to start even thinking of colonization?
Well, I think Musk is pretty confident in what he's doing, and once he has something ready to go, I think it's going to be pretty quick. But when we in the United States, when we had the shuttle missions that were going back and forth, and we lost that one that blew up. I mean, we didn't have a space program for years after that. I thought that was really a bad way to advance the scientific and to venture out into space. Going back again to coming to the New World from Europe. Back in the day when they lost a ship, they didn't say, "Oh, we can't be sending any more ships out because we're going to fall off the edge of the Earth." They were still sending ships out, but we stopped our whole space program for, almost 10 years, and that was a big setback. And I think when you decide to go explore Mars, we're going to lose people. Ships are going to blow up, rockets are going to blow up. They may land incorrectly on Mars, or we're going to lose people. But that's what you have to do to progress and learn from your mistakes. So that's how I'm looking at it. That we've had disasters, trying to go to the North Pole and going to new worlds. So the same thing will possibly happen going to Mars. There's going to be accidents, and we can't just stop the program because of a few lives that are lost. Not to diminish any lives, but this is science. This is man's destiny. We have to keep going.
I wonder
Does that make any sense?
Well, I think it makes a lot of sense because you're right. There are going to be people lost on the way. If they shoot up 8 rockets, there's a high chance of probability that not all 8 rockets are going to make it. Right. And you got to realize, with these rockets, they're not going to be sending up just 3 or 4 people at a time. They got to be able to figure out how to send 20 or 30 at a time.
Right. Well, that's what Elon Musk is thinking of doing. Yeah, there's going to be these whole, massive ships going to Mars once they start to settle it. So
yeah,
it's going to be an exciting time.
But I think it's still going to be, I'm going to say, maybe another 25 years before we even look at seeing a human put on there, though, because they're going to have to get things set up, and they're going to need the robotics of Elon Musk's robots there in order to set up things like encampments, and probably because of the heat, they'll have to be able to set up things like air conditioners and oxygen tanks, and maybe dig tunnels underground and set up the boring machines, so that way they have areas to be a lot more comfortable for the people. You have to be able to set up all this stuff. Will they find, they believe there's water up there. Maybe it's in the poles frozen, but they still have to figure out if that's going to be healthy enough or contaminated for humans. There's a lot of things that they will need to do before people even attempt to get there.
Yeah, you're right. Probably the initial programs will be, sending habitats that can be inflated and built or whatever by the robots, and with a very small human footprint there.
Well, we're going to learn.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think it will be in our lifetime before we, when we start to find out if it's even possible. Question is, how many billions is it going to cost? That's the big one. And we're going to get to more George J. Haas is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. The Cydonia Institute.com is his website. You can find his books there for your library. This is Spaced Out Radio. We will return for the second half hour right after this. All right, we are clear. We got about 5 minutes. All right, let me unmute you here, boss. Are we, May?
I'm here.
A little warm in here. I'm just going to open up my studio window. One of these days, I'm hoping that when I got my window open, like all of a sudden, like a bear shows up at my window and is like sticking his nose in there. I think that'd be.
Want that.
I want to see
that.
I do. I want to see it happen, George. There we go. Cool this place down. Holy cow, it's warm in here. There we go. On Patrick, you make it 200, we may have a deal. But you got to fight my kid for it. Oh, man. I think the website is going up next week for CaribouCon. So we'll let you guys know. Lacey Blue, good morning to you. Deb Aruni, how's the autograph signing going? Yes, Deb, I'm warm because you're here. That's exactly right. I'm going to turn that off so that way we can see that beautiful face of yours, George.
What's that?
Oh, 1 second here.
All righty.
I know everybody wants the sports updates. Some of us are recording. Go easy on them, Joe. Go easy on them. It's not like the idiot the other day who was trying to sneak in some racist comments. Yeah, we caught a dude the other day in our chat room where he was making racist comments by typing out a bunch of stuff and then capitalizing the first letter of each word.
Nice.
Yeah, I didn't see it. One of my mods did, and I'm like, wow.
That seems premeditated.
Yeah, I don't do that crap. I'm pretty people need to realize my chat room is not freedom of speech. It's a Daveocracy. And kind of go from there. All right. Jerence Carter, how are you? I will not be watching the halftime show only because I'm not a fan of Bad Bunny. Why won't they just play Metallica just once? The people who have the money to watch to pay for the Super Bowl tickets are Metallica fans. Although I would have loved to have seen that one in L.A. with Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg and Eminem. That was a good, my favorite one in a long time. All right, we got about 27 seconds. Thank you tonight to Deborah Rooney, Vaughn Patrick, Necessary Dialogue, and Kitty Cattywhackers for the super chats tonight. Really appreciate you supporting SOR. Much love. Don't forget to shop at our Spaced Out Radio store on our website. Why? We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. So check it on out. Here we go, the second half hour. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Second half hour underway as we're going to get into talk about Mars with researcher George J. Haas and his website, the CydoniaInstitute.com. Hey, before we bring George back on, we want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here we go. George J. Haas, the CydoniaInstitute.com. And we're going to talk about Mars here. Now, you started studying these photographs very seriously when, George?
Back in 1998 with the Mars Global Surveyor, when NASA decided to send another spacecraft out there to take some more pictures of the surface. And it was an exciting time. They actually took a new photograph of the famous face on Mars and a lot of other things on the planet. And we were finding stuff all over the place, not only in the famous Cydonia area where the face on Mars is with the D&M pyramid and all the city structures that Richard Hoagland had talked about, but we were finding there were things that look like pyramids, 4-sided pyramids, 3-sided pyramids, all over the place on Mars.
Was there one photo that caught your attention that really brought it home for you?
Well, the problem with NASA, they had the pictures of the face on Mars from 1976, and they only had basically the one really good picture they took. There was 2 pictures of the face on Mars originally, and there was a large panoramic view of the Cydonia area, but they were poor Viking images. And so we didn't see anything new for like over 20 years. So if you're a scientist that was interested in looking at these things, it took, you could have been dead by the time we got new images. And science is very slow with NASA. It takes a long period of time for them to take pictures of these structures that we find to be interesting. They have a program with the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, which takes these high resolution pictures. And at one time in the early 2000s, they had it was the high rise camera, high resolution. And they had the high request, where you could actually tell them the public could actually submit an area on the planet that they'd like to have a picture of. And that was a popular program. However, you had to be very scientific about your request and give them an explanation for a reason for why you wanted this area photographed and what was the geology, what was the scientific, reasoning behind your request. You couldn't just say, well, I'd like this area and the coordinates because it looks like a pyramid. You couldn't say that, or you'd never have it photographed. So there were a lot of things that we'd like to get other pictures of. And you just have to basically wait for NASA to come around to that area and take more pictures. Now, earlier in the year on the Joe Rogan, the guy that has the big podcast, he had spoken about a square formation that was photographed back in 2001 by the Mars Global Surveyors, old photograph, or one of the earlier images. And he brought that to the world's attention just the beginning of this year. And that was an image over 24 years ago. And people like myself, we had looked at this years ago, and it kind of looks like the foundation of a square fortress or something. And so it takes a long time for NASA to get additional pictures of something. And if you're looking at this scientifically, you need more than one picture because you want to see what the shadow is. Let's take it at a different time of year, with the different lighting conditions, morning, afternoon. If you're working in a museum and you got a mask, you want to take a archival picture of it. You'd want to have a 3/4 view on each side and a frontal view, nice lighting. And to do an evaluation, this is what you'd need. So it's like pulling teeth trying to get a nice set of images from NASA that you could use as evidence that, hey, this is a structure. It's not just one image that kind of looks like a three-sided pyramid. So that's basically the research that we're doing here. And these are the problems we have with working with NASA. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I get that. Let's go back to the 1970s when the famous photograph of the face on Cydonia was taken by Voyager. I mean, to everybody in the world, it looks like it's just too perfect not to be just a bunch of mountains and shadows at that exact same time. And why would they release that exact photo if it was just nothing? You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's an interesting part of the story. The Viking was, mapping out the planet for the landers, and they were also using the Mariner 9 mission to look for landing sites. And for some reason, Dr. Safin, who was running the Viking program, decided to have a press conference, and they released to the public that, hey, we found a formation on Mars in this Cydonia area that kind of looks like, they called it a head because it looked like a human face. And they actually took another picture of it a month later, but I think a week after they announced this face that they found. It's kind of like Roswell, where, hey, we found a crashed UFO. Oh, no, it's just a weather balloon. So they did the same thing with the face on Mars. 1 week it was a face. Next week it was, just a trick of light and shadow. We took this other image, and they never showed the second image. Actually, the second image they took of the face looked more like a face. It had more detail. But that picture didn't surface until 1980 when two researchers from JPL got permission from NASA to go through their files and see if there were any other pictures of the face on Mars. And that was DiPietro and Molinari, two scientists, and they actually found, they were famous for finding the 5-sided D&M pyramid, which is right down below. It's like a pyramidal formation. And that's actually named after them. The D&M pyramid means DiPietro and Molinari. So they not only found that, they found the other picture of the face on Mars, which actually had more detail. But that's all we had for like 20 years, those two pictures that people looked at. And we had a nice panoramic view, an aerial view of the Cydonia area. And we had a lot of odd structures that looked like a city. But of course, this was very low resolution. And we never got anything else until the 1990s, 1998, from 1976 to 1998. And then after 1998, we've gotten a lot of pictures up until now. I mean, they've probably taken, just getting back to the face on Mars, NASA's probably taken 30 to 40 pictures of it. Now, this is a formation that they say they have no interest in because it has no geological scientific interest to them, but they've taken that many pictures of it.
At what point do you think that Mars was previously colonized?
Well, I have some thoughts about that. Well, I call it's called the gatekeeper hypothesis. And it's the idea that at one time in our distant past, when we had probably Cro-Magnon or Neanderthal men living on Earth, Mars was a vacant planet. There was no one there. So the scenario is, from the evidence that we've collected looking at the ruins and structures on Mars, is that probably sometime in the distant past, about 1 million years ago, a runaway civilization from some other galaxy came here. And when they came into our solar system, they saw this beautiful little third planet from the sun that was like a paradise. And they were running away from probably some militant group from their galaxy. So they come to our solar system, they find this beautiful place, Earth, they land, and they need to create a civilization here. So they possibly find the available, humanoids on the planet, the Cro-Magnon, Neanderthal, or whatever, and they use them as slaves. And to protect themselves, they set up bases on the moon, and they set up bases on Mars because Mars has low gravity. It's a nice, and they set this up as like a guardian outpost. So going back to the idea of setting up little colonies, so they set bases up like Elon Musk wants to do on Mars. So if this culture that they're running away from, these extraterrestrials or enemy that they're trying to get away from, comes to our solar system, like George Bush said during the Gulf War, it's better to fight them over there than over here. You follow me?
Yes.
So you have this outpost on Mars, which is a military base all over the planet, to fight off who's ever coming out there before they get to the moon or Earth. If they get past Mars, we have outposts on the moon, and there's evidence that there's structures on the moon also. So this moon base would also be a second defense from then getting to Earth. And what I think happened from what we're seeing with these structures on Mars, that at one time, are you familiar with Dr. John Brandenburg?
I was actually just going to bring him up.
Right. Well, his scenario is that he found evidence of xenon-129 in the Cydonia area of the planet and also over in the Utopia area. And he talks about an air blast. There must have been some type of battles going on. So with this scenario that I'm talking about, that this aggressive culture came back, found out where they were hiding, and they had these battles. And whatever they had built on Mars was blown up and destructed. And of course, whatever bases they had on the moon were also destroyed. Now, the scenario may be that kind of like the Anunnaki that Zecharia Sitchin talks about, and the Sumerians, that when they came to Earth, this is all written down in the Sumerian text. This is considered mythology. But the Anunnaki came to Earth. They created the human race through the Neanderthal or Cro-Magnon. They called them the available man beasts that they found here. And they had bases on the moon and Mars, according to the Sumerian text. So, and that would be a great idea to protect the planet, putting out these guardian outposts on Mars and on the moon. Now, these were all destroyed. And the other interesting thing I have realized is that when I live in Virginia now, in the United States, and I'm originally from New Jersey. I'm a Jersey boy. So when I lived up in New Jersey, I used to go over to the University of Pennsylvania, and I used to go take courses on the weekends about Maya civilization, Maya hieroglyphics and writings and things like that. And through my studies over there, I found out about this Maya mythology that archaeologists talk about. It's called the Maya Star War. Are you familiar with that?
No, please fill me in.
Now, this is archaeologists talking, not me. I'm not calling this the Maya Star Wars. It's the archaeologists that do this. And it's kind of like a playoff of, the Star Wars series. So what the Maya did, they were concerned with Venus and Mars. And when the planets were in certain positions, they would have these ceremonial battles. And, the Aztec, the Maya, Olmec, going all the way back to the Olmec. And they talked about these battles that they had between Earth, which was around, it's a little place called Naranjo in Mexico. I'm sure a lot of your listeners probably have never heard of Naranjo. Naranjo is very near Cozumel in Mexico. And okay. According to the hieroglyphic writings, this is the interpretation that the archaeologists are talking about, that they had these these battles between Earth and Mars. Now they called Mars 6 Earth placed, like the number 6. And the Maya counted the planets from the outside in, kind of like the Sumerians did. Zechariah Sitchin talks about how the Sumerians gave all the planets names, and they also had numbers, like, we're the 3rd rock from the sun. But according to the Maya, Earth was the 7th planet, Mars was the 6th planet, and Venus would be the 8th planet, according to the numbering system. Now, the 6th Earth place was an Earth-like place, the 6th planet, which was Mars. They also called Mars was associated with the Mars beast, which was like a reptilian creature. And these battles between Earth and Mars happened at 2 different periods. The Maya talk about, it was, I think, 896,000 years ago, which was like almost a million years ago. That was the oldest record of these conflicts. And the second conflict was 22,000 years ago, very recently. And Bill and I, my early co-author, been doing this for like 30 years. We also noticed that there's a lot of structures that we're finding on Mars, these pyramidal formations and so forth. And some of them are really damaged, kind of like this square foundation that Joe Rogan was talking about. It's totally almost destroyed. It's in rubble. And then we're finding other things that look pretty pristine. So it's almost like there's these 2 different periods of ruins on Mars that we're finding. So this seems all like coordinate.
Yeah,
and then going back to,
we did talk to Dr. John Brandenburg a couple of times on this show, and I got to meet him earlier this year at UFOCon in San Francisco, and just a fantastic, fantastic guy, and the astrophysicist basically saying that he does believe that there was some sort of nuclear holocaust, and that there is evidence through the photographs that we have seen, and I guess even some of the scientific experiments the rovers have collected to see that there was some sort of radiation on there.
Yeah, and it's very scary, actually. It appears that Mars suffered lots of battles. It is the planet of war, the war god. But Stephen Hawkins, he warned scientists, and especially SETI, about sending messages out, because you don't know who's going to answer. And this could have been a scenario that happened with Mars, that they made contact with some extraterrestrial militant group that came and attacked them. And Brandenburg talks about this, about, there's this whole scientific probability that if you make contact with extraterrestrials, they may not be friendly. I mean, look how when we came to the Americas, what we did to the indigenous people. You conquer. And we may have that similar scenario. This may be what happened to the colonies and the structures and the civilization that was on Mars. Either they fought with themselves like we do, or it was someone else. So you got to be cautious. And Brandenburg thinks that there may be this type of militant culture in extraterrestrial cultures that go out and destroy cultures when they find out where they're at. So it's better to be quiet. And he also talks about the Fermi mystery, about, there's,
Yes.
which is another scientist that spoke about, if we find all of these planets and solar systems throughout the galaxy, so it's like Carl Sagan, billions and billions of planets and stars, where is everybody? How come we're not hearing from them? And it may be that you want to go quiet.
Yeah, you definitely don't want that. That's for sure.
Nope.
I mean, but
Don't tell them we're here.
But here's the thing, like when I remember asking Dr. Brandenburg whether or not that was maybe a human society up there that had something happen, or some sort of extraterrestrial type society. He believes that it might have been a combination of both back then, that was attacked by some ethereal species that was warlike, that sent a probe down there to basically, rid the planet of life.
Correct. And, we have a lot of references to these ancient battles in some other cultures. In India, they talk about the battles with the gods. And so we do hear a lot about in ancient mythology and this type of sometimes called history, that these conflicts happened in the past. So we may find when we go to Mars that this may be what happened. We'll find all kinds of evidence. The little rovers that are driving around, they're taking pictures of rocks and things, and sometimes in the distance you see something that looks like a machinery all rusted and looks like all kinds of artifacts sitting all over the place when the rover goes driving around. And NASA, they'll take these panoramic views of the landscape, and if something looks like a rock, they'll drive the rover closer and they'll put the little sniffer on there and they'll grind it and take a sample and look at it. But if something looks like it might be, the remnants of an old 57 Chevy, they just drive the other way.
We got 4 minutes to go before we have to go to break. In the next half hour, you're going to do something that we don't usually do on this show. And that is for our YouTube audience. You're going to share some photographs that you're going to, for our radio audience, be able to describe very uniquely so that we're going to paint a picture for them of what we're looking at. And of course, we will encourage them to check out these photos on our Spaced Out Radio YouTube channel when they get the opportunity. The photos that you show or that you are studying, where do you get them from?
These are all official NASA photographs that NASA has taken over the years, all from the different programs, the Mars Global Surveyor program, and they're all archived on the NASA websites, and you can go there and go through all the archives. They all are numbered. It's sometimes not very user-friendly, but they do have all of the images they've ever taken, including the old Viking images of the face and the newer images. And you can just go through them. They have you can go to a program where there's a map and you can just put the little arrow on an area and the pictures from that area will come up. So you can just spend hours and hours going through NASA photographs. And, and after you do this for a while, you know what, rocks and mountains look like and hills. And then all of a sudden you'll see something that just is geometric. Geometry is the key here. We're finding a lot of things in these images. After you do this for a while, your normal Martian terrain, so you can go through them kind of quickly. And once you see something that doesn't, sticks out of place, like a sore thumb, it's usually a geometric shape, a pyramid, 5-sided or something. And that will look like something that's not a rock, not natural, and it has that, symmetry to it, geometry. And if you find one, there's usually others around it. So we usually find these little areas that have kind of like these little compounds or these little settlements. So there's usually, like American Indians, they would have all these mounds. They'd be in a circular alignment or whatever. And we're finding very similar type structures on Mars. Brandenburg talked about the level of the technique of the building that we're looking at on Mars are probably like Bronze Age on the Earth. So that's kind of like how he coordinates it. A lot of mounds and things like that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how you break this down because, the one thing that humans are really good at is pareidolia. And, look, I've seen photographs coming from Mars, especially what looks like the lady sitting on the rock. I mean, that photo just absolutely blows my mind because I just don't see a rock structure looking like a human being that close. But I mean, how do you prejudge for pareidolia?
Well, pareidolia is a word that was coined in the late 1990s, early 2000s, and it appeared in an issue of the Skeptical Inquirer. And it was basically a hit piece about the face on Mars. And this, the author of the article was the first one to use this word pareidolia. When I was working on my book, I did some investigation into this whole history of this idea of pareidolia, where things look, like you look in the clouds and you think you see your dog or your Aunt Millie's cow. This rock kind of looks like a face. There's a lot of things in nature that do look, face-like or have a little, animation to them. But what we're seeing on Mars goes well beyond that. Now, this word pareidolia comes from the 1800s. It was from a science journal. Excuse me. And it's mentioned in the book. I hate to mention that it's in the book, but We can get back to this after the break.
Yeah, let's do that because I think, pareidolia is a big one that we do need to talk about because we want to see it. And especially for those of us who want to believe, we want to make sure that we're live and not Memorex, to use a nice 80s term there. George J. Haas is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. You can find his books and information on his website, thecydonianinstitute.com. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. All right. We got about 5.5 minutes, George. Be right back, everybody. I am back. Luna Co, how are you? Seymour, are you going to be good tonight or are you going to be an idiot? Let's just be blunt. Okay, because I know what you did last night, and I don't put up with that shit in my chat room. So you got a choice: smarten up or be gone. Plain and simple. All right, let's bring George back. There we go. How you doing, George?
I'm doing good. We're going to talk about pareidolia.
Yes, we are. In about a minute and a half. We're coming back live in about 40 seconds. The beard and mustache are still looking good.
Thank you. The beard's new. I just started growing a beard last year. I normally just had the mustache.
Yeah, that's a beautiful lip blade you got there, buddy. Beautiful. All right. Big thank you tonight to Area 54 times 2, Daryl, Kitty Caddywhack, Necessary Dialogue, Von Patrick, and Deborah Rooney. So don't forget to shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. And we got 5 seconds. Here we go with the second hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We're glad you're with us talking about Mars with George J. Haas. And it's been an interesting show indeed. Before we bring Joe back on, we want to say hello to everyone tuning us in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club, Ballatron. Ballatron is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night, right here on Spaced Out Radio. From the website, the Cydonia Institute.com, George J. Haas is here, and we're talking about previous life and civilizations on Mars. Did it actually happen? The photographs we're going to get into. We're talking about pareidolia right now. And by the way, we also want to say that George is a great author. You can find all of his books on his website. Once again, the Cydonia Institute.com. George, welcome back.
Well, thanks for having me on again.
Pareidolia.
Yes. It's a wonderful word. It's overused. And I think it goes all the way back to NASA wanting to diminish the public's interest in the face on Mars. They got this guy. His name was Stephen Goldstein. He wrote an article in Skeptical Inquirer back in 1994. And that's when the word was first used. And I mean, everybody uses it all the time. Anytime you see something on Mars that kind of looks like a bird or an animal or a face, it's, oh, that's pareidolia. You know, we see faces because, when we're children, when we're babies, first thing we notice is mom's face. And, we have to be, it's in our DNA to see the tigers and the bears in the woods, and we have to see the faces. So we're used to seeing things like this. And, this word comes from a science journal that was published in 1868. It's a mental science journal. And the article talks about this phenomenon called pareidolia. And it's a science study that was done. And like I said, this article was produced in this journal. And it talks about this mental condition where people see faces everywhere. It's a mental instability. People suffer from this. This was written about, the 1800s or 1868 or whatever. So, that's basically where the word comes from this ailment, this fixation where people are seeing faces everywhere on the walls, in their rooms. And it has nothing to do with this whole idea of, seeing things that, we can anthropomorphize a lot of things. I mean, you can look at in a bathroom and see the handles, and kind of looks like a face with the spout coming out like a nose. We can, look at things and say that sometimes you'll find a pepper that kind of looks like a grimace face or something. We all know that that's not real. That's not an intentional face. That's just something that's comical. We can see up in the sky. Look at the clouds. Sometimes a cloud may look like a dog or a cow, like I said earlier. But when you see contrails going up in the sky, that's artificial. That's produced by a plane. Or you can see sometimes airplanes will go up and go, I love Lucy, or they'll do the smiley face. The airplane will go up and put the little eyes. We know that that's artificial. That's man-made. So I think we can distinguish between clouds and contrails from planes. So I think just as we can discern between those formations, I think we're able to discern between natural landforms and something that's artificially constructed. Does that make any sense? Do you have any other questions about this pareidolia?
Well, no, I understand with that actually what you're getting at. I think you described it very beautifully, to be blunt. But there is always going to be the argument. There's always going to be the argument about whether or not we're actually seeing what we're seeing. I mean, the greatest example, and you used it already, but I'll reiterate, is the fact is in clouds. We can see things in clouds. That one looks like a dinosaur. That one looks like a fish. That one looks like a face. That's a UFO in the sky. Okay, it probably is a UFO. But just for giggles, we will sit there and say, that we could see things because our eyes are always trying to adjust to references that we already know. So how do we know that this isn't happening with what we're seeing on Mars?
Right. Well, getting back to seeing, dogs and cows and things like that. Usually when you look at clouds or mountain ranges that kind of look like a fish or whatever you think you're seeing, usually those are just silhouettes. They don't have any secondary and tertiary. It may have a dark area that looks like where an eye would be, but you don't see a pupil. You don't see an eyelid. There's no detail. These are just very generic type of formations that you're looking at. Normally silhouettes. And again, they don't have a lot of detail. We have this parrot formation that we found on Mars that we had. One of our early members of the Cydonia Institute, Will Faust, found this back in 2002, and it's a profiled image of a parrot. He's laying on his side. He's got his wing up, and it looks just like a parrot. But it's very difficult to convince people that this is an artificial structure because people say, "Oh, that's just pareidolia. You're thinking it looks like a parrot." So it's very difficult to convince people that if you find structures on Mars that look pictographic, because the first excuse is that it's pareidolia, and it's really just kind of looks like a parrot. It really isn't a parrot. Now, this parrot formation, we had a science paper published on this. Originally, we had two geologists work on the paper. We brought in 3 veterinarians to do their study. We gave them pictures of this. They found 18 points of anatomical correctness, which goes way beyond looking at a cloud. So there's a lot of detail in this parrot formation. And this parrot, from the beak to the tail, is about 1 mile long. Everything's large on Mars because of the low gravity. The famous face on Mars is 1.5 miles from the top of the head to the chin. So everything's big. Now this parrot, it has a head, it's got a beak, it's got an eye. The upper and lower beak is open partially. You can actually see the tongue. There's the eye. There's a little neck fret line. There's the body. You have the tail feathers. There's a foot that goes down. You can see the toe digits and the claws. Lots of detail. So like I said, 18 points of anatomical correctness. And we had this formation sent out to some journals. We actually got it published in a science journal. So we were pretty happy. This goes all the way back to 2011. And NASA recently, a couple years ago, I think 2023 or whatever, they took a Mars reconnaissance high-resolution image of this parrot formation. So we have about 5 different pictures previously of this parrot formation. And this new Mars reconnaissance high-resolution, I mean, the camera's so powerful it can take pictures of like something the size of a Volkswagen on the surface. So you get a lot of detail. So if this parrot's there, this image that they took was going to prove it was either just an illusion of ours or it was really there. When this picture was taken, we again invited we had like 5 veterinarians look at it. They were just amazed that this has such detail, this sculpted parrot formation. And now we have 22 points of anatomical correctness. It actually increased. So we're pretty excited about that. And that was also published in a science journal in 2022. So that formation has been published in 2 different science journals. So that's pretty cool. And this whole idea of pareidolia, now with my new book, I kind of tried to focus on geometry. We're looking at things that are highly symmetrical and geometric in design, because that's a lot more convincing for people. It's hard. I mean, this parrot has 22 points of anatomical correctness, but still people laugh and say, oh, no, it's not. They just don't want to look at it. But when you're looking at geometry with straight lines, that's more convincing. And so my new book is just packed full of geometry. And I think it's been received pretty well. A lot of people are very surprised about all these structures on the surface of Mars. And I think I'm convincing a lot more people with the geometry as opposed to pictographic formations, which there's a lot of those also. But the new book only features 1 chapter there on the parrot formation because we have so much evidence.
You wanted to show some photographs to our social media channel. You'll describe them for our radio audience. What would you like to show us?
Are we able to do share screen, or how do we do this?
So just bring them up. What you want to do is hit the presenter invite button.
Where's that at?
Let me see here. If you go to the screen at the bottom.
Yeah, I got a microphone, I got a camera, and then I got I guess a plus screen. Is that it?
Yeah, the plus screen there, and you can share screen.
And it says share screen. Okay. Share screen. All right. Are you seeing that, or where are we?
No, you have to hit OK.
Allow. It's not. Where is OK? It says not now.
Well, we'll figure it out. We'll bring it up in the next half hour. Let me ask you a couple questions from our audience here, first and foremost. Okay. While we're waiting, we'll figure that one out.
I'll hit not now.
Yeah, we'll figure it out during the break.
Yeah.
Joe is asking, why did Mars tint their photos red in the original, or NASA tint their photos red in the original photos from the landers? They were busted when they filmed the lander in colors on the land. Are we not? And they weren't correct?
Well, from what I understand, the guys that released the pictures, the NASA teams, JPL or whatever, the people that are releasing these pictures, they kind of turn the color up to red for some reason. This has been a controversy for a long time. Now that they have the rovers up there, the rovers all have a little dial card on there that shows like a color wheel. Mm-hmm. So, which is like a where you can get the standardized inclination of what the color should be, and that kind of led to them backing down. So a lot of the pictures now usually are a very light tinged gray sky, or sometimes it's a little bluish. It depends on what you're looking at. NASA's actually released pictures that show clouds on Mars, which we never knew they had. But the rovers are finding clouds. But that's been a long controversy about Mars, tweaking turning the red up to 11.
Let's go to another question.
Little spinal tap there.
Let's go to Jaquetta. What are your thoughts on the 10 years ago, a human-looking shadow repairing a Mars rover?
Well, that was actually NASA has an area in, I think it's in Iceland, where there's an area in Iceland that looks just like Mars. And that's where they do a lot of study for these new rovers that they're going to send up. And eventually when, Musk goes up there with all these robotic things. And the terrain looks just like you're on Mars. It's unbelievable. In one of these pictures of the scientists out there looking at one of these new vehicles that they had kind of like got stuck on the internet, and people were saying, "Oh my God, there's scientists!" Look, the people, and then one with the shadow looked like a person there. That's probably from Iceland, the Mars. The NASA has a base over there.
And here I thought it was from Transformers.
I don't know. But yeah, there's a lot of, and see, things like that get a lot of attention. But, we have a parrot with 22 points of anatomical correctness, and, nobody wants to look at it. But, you see a shadow of a guy next to the rover, boy, that's all over the internet.
Well, you know what? There are many of us who believe that, NASA's been fudging things for years. I've pointed this out that I got a real bone to pick with NASA after the way they've treated the UFO community by treating us like we're just a bunch of idiots. And I don't think anybody really trusts NASA, and nor should they.
Well, it's, NASA is never a straight answer.
That's right.
Well, what do you think about the Area 51 where they had the crash last week, or the beginning of this week? There was one of the vehicles crashed there. That was in the news down here.
I don't think that's UFO at all.
No, it's probably some type of experimental thing they're working on.
Yes, it probably took a firefighting crash retrieval team to make sure that it was all cleaned up nicely.
Right. Could have been a training exercise, right? Training exercise.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I say that, but I am a big UFO guy. I've been fortunate to see a number of them. I've including 2 on the ground. Like, it's not that I'm trying to be skeptical or anything, but in places like Area 51 and getting to talk to people who have a lot more experience in the black ops than I do, it is something that opens my eyes quite a bit to some of the games that are being played on a base like that.
Right. So
let's go to Eve. What about the foundation thing that's made of right angles on Mars?
I guess she's talking about the formation that Joe Rogan brought to the public's attention earlier this year.
Yes.
That is. It's got a 90-degree angle at the top and the bottom. It is in a north to south orientation. It's kind of like a pyramid that's shaped like a diamond. The foundation, and my co-author William Saunders and Robert Schoch. He's the one that I'm not sure if your audience knows who he is. He's a geologist. He actually co-wrote the paper with us, the 3 of us, and we just had a paper published during the summer dealing with that square-shaped formation on Mars. So if the listeners out there go to our website, or they just look up George J. Haas and William Saunders and Robert Schoch, they can find that. I can send you a link to the paper. It was published in the Journal of Astrobiology, and we have a pretty convincing case showing that this is a artificial structure. You don't have geometry like that that happens naturally.
Another question from our audience. Let's go to Joe again. George, what do you think about the photograph that shows a woman's statue on Mars, or any of the other anomalous photos?
That is another formation that got a lot of attention when it was released, and some young guy found that and got a lot of attention with the online articles and things like that. I'm not very sure that it may be just an angle of a rock that kind of looks like that. There's not a lot of detail. The rover takes multiple pictures of an area as it goes by. So there's numerous pictures of that. And the other pictures of that area, it doesn't seem to look like a woman sitting on a rock, from other vantage points. That's the problem with a lot of, which we were talking about, pareidolia. When you see like a mountain range, or you look like at a cliff and it kind of looks like a face, if you move a little bit to the west or east, it sometimes will disappear. You don't see it anymore. It has to be at the right angle. And I think that's mostly what that was. There's a lot more evidence of structures and machinery parts and all kinds of anomalies that are a lot better, I think, than the little mermaid sitting on the rock that a lot of people see. That's just my personal opinion. From what I've seen, I don't see any supportive images of that, and that's why when, like the science paper we have just had published with this Square Foundation, we have multiple pictures of that formation that can verify it, different times of the year under different lighting, and to show that that formation is still supported by other images. Now that little statue that people are seeing, we don't have any secondary images to look at that, and I'd like to at least have two.
Very true. All right, let's move to another question here. Let's go to Jules. Could they LiDAR Mars?
Well, the LiDAR is it's done with a beam, comes down, bounces off the surface. It actually goes right through foliage, like the trees and grass, and it hits the surface and bounces back. That's how they make these pictures. Mars doesn't really have any plant life that we could see. There's no grass, there's no foliage, no trees. So there's really no need for that. I don't know what they would do with it, because Mars actually looks like we're using LiDAR already, because there's nothing there. I mean, it's all whatever's on the surface, you can see it, unless it's covered over with debris and ice and dust.
Mm-hmm. All right, moving on. One more question. This one comes from Mel. How about the keyhole?
Oh, glad Mel mentioned that. That's another formation that's in our book. I call these the smoking guns on Mars. If you want to look for the best evidence, the best evidence of a pictographic formation would be the parrot, which has the 22 points of anatomical correctness. We've had geologists look at it. We've had veterinarians look at it, and they all confirm that this is the shape and detail and anatomical features of a parrot. Now the keyhole is that's all geometry. That's a highly symmetrical formation that takes the shape of a keyhole. It has the wedge shape at the top, and then there's the dome at the bottom. The shape of, you put your key in the keyhole. That's the old classic keyhole shape. And we had a science paper published with that keyhole formation in the Journal of Space Exploration back in 2016. That formation's been featured on Ancient Aliens, the Unexplained with William Shatner. So it's been on TV programs. It's been in a lot of magazines, newspaper articles and stuff. And it is an amazing formation, and it actually mimics, it almost looks identical to this keyhole formation in Japan called the Kufan tomb. If your listeners out there, just go check this out on the internet. A lot of people have spoken about, and there's little videos about the keyhole. It's probably one of the best examples of artificial structure on the planet Mars.
All right. We got about 90 seconds to go here before we have to go to break. At the bottom of the hour, George J. Haas is here talking about potential life on Mars. And I'm just looking for more questions here. We don't seem to have any at this time, but that's okay. George, the one photo that really caught a lot of people's attention, I believe it was earlier this year, was the structure inside the mountainside, where it looked like there was a square door and an entry level into that mountainside. Did you happen to catch that photo?
Yes, I posted that on my Facebook and did some comparisons with side-by-side pictures. I don't have any pictures to show your audience, but that got a lot of attention early on. It's actually very small. It looks like an air vent because it's up on the hill at the top. The crop pictures, people get confused. They think it's like right on the ground. It looks like something you could walk into. The doorway is very strange. It's actually cut out rectangular, and there's so much detail. It looks like the interior wall that goes into this this hole here, entryway, this tunnel, has like marbled walls. The walls are very flat and smooth and shiny. So it looks like it's some type of air vent. Like the pyramids in Egypt at the top, they have these air vents that go down into the chambers and stuff. So it may be something like that. It's very interesting. It does not look natural.
No, it does not. We're going to discuss that more with George J. Haas here on Spaced Out Radio as we're talking Mars all night long. The Cydonia Institute.com is George's website. You can find his books there as well. This is Spaced Out Radio.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, we're clear. Good job tonight, George. You having fun?
Oh yeah, I enjoy talking about this stuff. That's why I do it.
All right. So to share, what I want you to do is I want you to press that screen button.
Okay, I did. It says share screen, image file, video file, slide
Yep.
PDFs. Share
Yep.
screen.
Which one do you want to share?
I guess we'll hit share screen.
Yeah, share screen.
All right, and then it says screen sharing tips.
It should show you.
And then it says at the bottom, says share screen.
Yeah, just hit share.
Okay. And then it says at the top here, it says not now.
Weird.
Mhm.
Okay, let's try something else here. Hit that. Now, are these in a file or are they on?
It's actually in a
Is it on your
power-
website?
Yeah, it's right here in my computer. It's
Okay.
part of it's a PowerPoint.
Okay. Let's see here. So let's go. Share. Let's go image file. Try that.
Where's that at? Oh, share. You want image file?
Yeah, try image file.
Yeah, I'll just go to it. Hold on. What happened? It says nothing's in there. That's not working.
All right. Well, if that's not working, let's try something else here. So if we hit that one,
No, we don't want that.
try slides and PDFs. Do you have that one?
Yeah,
Try that one.
it says Google Slides in your computer. What happens in your computer?
I don't know. That's your computer.
Yeah, then it wants to upload. Let me take a look. See if it'll do it.
Now I was able to, did it work?
It's not coming up though.
Okay. I was able to pull these images up from your website.
How'd you get them from my website?
I went to Radio with Pictures.
Oh, you're on the Cydonia Institute. Yeah, I didn't load any pictures up over there. Yeah, I see. That was from a while ago. Yeah, that's the parrot formation. That's the raptor complex. That's a pyramid there that looks like in. This is older stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not going to do us any good. We can just talk like we've been doing.
Okay.
I mean, it's going pretty well.
Not a problem.
If the people are intrigued enough, they can go get the book.
Yeah. Go get the book.
Or all these images are on my Facebook if they want to go, or they can go to the Cydonia Institute and actually go to I have a discussion board for the Cydonia Institute, and there's a thread over there. Are we on the air or we're just?
Well, we're just in behind the scenes.
Okay. Yeah, there's a thread over there that has the best examples of structures on Mars, which has like 75 examples of the best structures on Mars, which are pretty mind-boggling. I challenge anybody to look at 5 of them and tell me that there's nothing on Mars. But I got 75 examples of structures on Mars, so they're all over the place.
We're
I
coming
have
back.
enough information for probably 3 or 4 more books.
All right, we're coming back in 20 seconds. Big thank you tonight to Daryl, Area 54 ×2, Deborah Rooney, Vaughn, Necessary, and Kitty for the great super chats. We greatly appreciate your love and support, guys. And we've got more questions coming up here for you as well, George, here momentarily. Here we go with the second half of Spaced Out Radio. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. We appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hey, we want to remind all of you that if you missed most of this show or others, you can check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here we go. Final time tonight from the Cydonia Institute.com. We have George J. Haas hanging on out. You can get his books on his website, talking about Mars and much, much more. George, thank you so much for being here. Let me get you unmuted here. There we go. Hold on one second. There we go. Yes.
Are you seeing that on your screen? I think it just popped up.
Yep, I put it up there.
Oh, you did it?
Yep.
Oh, so it's actually working. Oh, great. So we actually got the PowerPoint to work. So this is the Great Architects of Mars. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's rock and roll. It's on you, man.
Okay. We'll go through this quickly. This is just an aerial view of our planet Earth. Over here, this little white dot, that's Xi'an, China. Back in 1947, an American pilot during World War II went off course and went into China. He took this picture of this pyramid. You see this large white pyramid here? This is a very famous photograph. Over the years, people said that this was a hoax. There's no pyramids in China. The Chinese government said, no, we have no pyramids. And so this kind of went to the like mysteries of the universe and the world kind of books. And this was thought to be just a hoax. That's until the advent of Google Earth. Here's the pyramid right here. These are pictures of Xi'an, China. These were taken in 2003. So this is just showing that things that at one time were thought to be hoaxes and had no scientific basis. We have Google. The satellites took these pictures over China. These pyramids are all over the place in this area. China doesn't really like to talk about them. We don't really know their origins, but that's the use of aerial photographs. This is just showing the audience, anyone out there that's able to see this, is that we're using the same type of technology looking at aerial photographs on Mars, just like Google Earth is looking down on Earth, and we're seeing these great pictures. The idea of pyramids not looking like pyramids on Mars, this is a picture of Teotihuacan in Mexico back in 1900s, early 1900 actually, when they were looking at this pyramid. It was all covered with dirt, had plants growing on it, trees growing on it. It wasn't until they did excavation and got the dirt off of it and did some reconstruction that we see this beautiful pyramid it is today. A lot of the pyramids and formations we're finding on Mars, we're seeing the 4 or 5 sides, sometimes 3-sided pyramids, but a lot of them are covered with dirt and dust. So just like they were finding these pyramids on Earth, you know, that we all know about in Mexico, that at what time they were covered. Now, an interesting thing about the Maya and the Aztec and the Olmec, they had a propensity to, when they built these pyramids, they would bury them. They would kill the pyramid by burying it. And archaeologists find a lot of smaller pyramids in Mexico, and they'll find there's pyramids inside the pyramids that they would build one on top of another, and then they would be ceremonially buried, kind of like this. This might have been just ceremonially buried by the ancients. This whole idea of going to Mars, like we're discussing tonight, and looking at these photographs and trying to find markers for highly symmetrical, geometrical designs. This book came out in 2014 by a guy named Douglas Van Koch, and he got a bunch of scientists together to discuss this probability. I'm sure you're all familiar with the Brookings Institute back in the late 1950s. They actually had Margaret Mead was one of the scientists. They were trying to discuss what we would do if we found artifacts on another planet. And what the Brookings Institute, basically, to make a long story short, they said, if we find it, hide it. Don't tell the public, because the public would not be able to accept it, because we have such a thin veneer of our mental psyche that, we just couldn't handle it. But they never talked about, would we be able to recognize structures? And that's what this study was. And they found, remarkably, what they had concluded was that scientists, geologists looking at aerial photographs of a potential structures on another planet would not be able to identify them, which was pretty remarkable. But I'm finding them. This is the whole idea of covering things. When we go to Mars, we're just going to build habitats, and the best way to protect us from radiation would be to cover them with dirt, just like the Maya were covering the temples and things. So this whole idea of living on Mars would be protecting us from the Martian radiation, would be cover things with dirt. Now we're moving to one of the first chapters in the book of the Great Architects of Mars. This is Elysium, this little white dot over here. This is just a mola map of Mars showing the heights. This low area is where the oceans would be. This is the flat area, the lower area. And over here, next to the shoreline, this is a place called Elysium. Now, this was first taken by the photographs of Elysium were taken by the, was taken by the Mariner 9. Now, the Mariner 9 took a lot of photographs of Mars, but they were very high contrast, as you can see here, very light and dark. And these pyramidal formations caught the eye of this guy here, Mac Gibson. He was a scientist. Now, before the face on Mars, which kind of ruined all of the scientific research conducted to Mars with pareidolia and trying to dismiss any kind of interest in Mars, this was before all that. In the mid 70s, scientists were actually very interested in looking at the possibility of finding structures on Mars. And this scientist here, Mac Gibson, he actually had a science paper published, which was titled "Pyramidal Structures on Mars" in Icarus. Now, Icarus is a highbrow, very well-known science journal, and he had an article back in 1974 about these pyramids from the Mariner 9 photographs. This was before Carl Sagan. Nobody talks about this guy. Carl Sagan looked at the same pyramids. He said they were pyramids, something that we needed to look at. They were mentioned, these pyramids were mentioned on his show, The Cosmos, and in his book. All you young people out there probably don't know Carl Sagan had a big TV series back in the 80s, and he talked about billions and billions of stars. He was very famous, and he took this seriously, and he was looking at these pyramids. These are two different pyramids that are in Elysium, some of the pyramids here that Carl Sagan saw. Unfortunately, Carl Sagan didn't get to see any of these pictures. He died in 1996, I believe. So all he got to see were the original Mariner 9 pictures of the pyramids in Elysium, and he also saw some of the pictures of the same pyramids from the Viking cameras. However, those were very bad. They were very poor. So he never got to get any resolution of these formations. Now, these pictures were taken in the 2000s. These are from the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. These are the CTX images. These are great images. But you can see that the three-sided pyramids, very geometric. This is something that does not happen in nature. In the same area that Carl Sagan initially found these pyramids in the Elysium area, this is what I call a star shield. You see the shape of this? It's totally symmetrical, does not look like something that was made naturally. This is just to the northwest of this pyramid here, almost identical, except it's about half the size. The formation in the middle is a Fort Santa Teresa, which is in Uruguay. And you can see it's almost got the same type of buttresses and everything. So it's pretty remarkable. And what I do throughout the book is show these side-by-side pictures of these potential geometric structures and pyramids that we're finding on Mars with their Earth-based structures that look very similar. This is highly symmetrical. This one here and you'll notice these little points at the top. This one kind of curves off to the side. So does this one. Which we're not going to talk about here, but these are all alignments that go from one structure to the other. So not only are we finding these structures that are very highly symmetrical and geometric, they also have alignments with the surrounding structures. Now we're moving on to a place called Nepenthes. This is Nepenthes Mars. We were over here at Elysium. This is going down a little south. Again, you see we're on shoreline. A lot of these bases that we're finding all these structures are, around the water, where the water would have been at one time. This is another starburst. Again, this shows a Earth-based, this is Fort Henry, which was in Tennessee. This goes back to like 1861. During the Civil War and stuff, a lot of these structures were made these were forts. And we're finding all these forts. Now, earlier in the discussion, if you remember, we talked about this idea that gatekeepers for this runaway culture came to Mars and they built these fortifications on Mars. This is exactly what you would build. These have these buttresses. I mean, look at the symmetry here. This is amazing. It almost looks identical. You see this flat area here on the fort? It has the same thing here, the same flat. And this is where the little buildings inside would be, which would be where you'd have the weapons or the barracks and things like that. So this is pretty remarkable. This is a five-sided pentagonal pyramid. And here it is without the lines. I just put the lines to show you. It's almost like a Mesoamerican step pyramid, very geometric again. This is a whole area of structures. This is highly anomalous. All of these, you have triangles, you have squares. And what I've done here, I just outlined them. This is not natural. This is a whole city complex here. And we have these rod formations. See these long rods? There's little squares, circles. There's this strange looking thing here. There's a pyramidal formation. These long rod rectangular things are very similar. And we'll move on to the next one. This is this little structure here. This is a close-up of it. Highly symmetrical. It almost looks like it's a space vehicle that's parked there. It has that whole look to it with these wings coming out. It's got this little beak area, highly symmetrical. And right next to it is another mound, which seems to be a five-sided formation there. So all of this geometry is all over the place. This formation here is the one down here. You have this mound here with this rod on a platform. That's this last one we're looking at. This is what we have on Mars. This is the cylindrical part, and then you have this mound at the end. This is the same structure that we're finding here on Earth. Now, Dave, these are almost identical. You have the mound here with the cylindrical part, and this is all on a platform. This was produced by the American Indians. This is in the Sue Johnson Mound Group right here on Earth. So again, showing side-by-side comparisons of what we're finding on Mars with similar structures here on Earth. This one here is one of the really amazing pieces. This is, you see the geometry here? It's just remarkable. This is also in the same area, the Nepenthes, and this was found in 2025. The picture was taken. Now this structure on the end, Dave, this is over in Turkey. This is on Earth. This is on Mars. It has the same shape. It has the mound in the center. This has a mound in the center. Pretty remarkable.
No kidding. No kidding. This shouldn't be possible.
No. Now, if you notice this mound on Mars that has the same, it's an elongated formation. That's that hexagonal formation. But you notice all these little. This is all like little adobe structures here. All this pattern here. When you zoom in, you can see this is all the city area here. It's on the other side. It's almost like a mirrored image. You have the city on top of the mound here. On Mars, on Earth, the city is on this side. It's almost the reverse. It's like you can't make this stuff up.
No, not at all. I mean,
this is in Libya Mounds. This is where the one of your callers called in and talked about the keyhole formation. This is the famous keyhole formation. You have the mound at the bottom and the wedge at the top. These straight lines. Now, the geologist of our science paper talked about if you looked at wind mechanisms or what type of surface wind or whatever, that geologists will say, oh, this was just caused by, wind blowing down this way and causing these nice striation ridges. But if wind was coming down here, it would destroy the mound at the bottom. So one geological explanation can't explain this whole thing, which gives it more lenience to this being artificial. This is just showing some of the internal geometry, how this thing is totally symmetrical. This has exquisite geometry. Now, the same design, these are keyhole tombs found in Saudi Arabia. These are all over the place. They don't really know much about these over in Saudi Arabia. They've always been there. A lot of people didn't even know about these until Google Earth came into effect, where people can, you can be an armchair archaeologist and zoom around and go through Google Earth and you find these things. They're all over in Saudi Arabia. But this is the one that's most convincing. This is the Kufan tomb in Japan, and I'm doing side-by-side comparisons here. It's almost identical. I'm considering this is on Mars and nobody's taking care of it. This has been maintained in Japan because they want tourists to come look at it. And these things are very ancient in Japan. But if you look at the design, it's just remarkable. I know you're speechless.
I am a little blown away.
Now, this was featured in the Journal of Space Exploration back in 2016. Now we're moving to this. A lot of people are very excited about the Atlantis chaos. This is what NASA calls this area, Atlantis chaos. Do you see the grid? This is a city. This is the grid city. These are building tops. They're kind of like these compartmentalized structures. Here we have a dome formation. There's a like a Mesoamerican a temple here. Excuse me, I got to get a little drink here. But do you see the whole gridded area? I mean, these are cubicles. You see that?
Yes.
This is a comparison. Now, again, this is something you find on Earth. Oops, I went too far. These are over in Saudi Arabia. These are those little, they're kind of like adobe. They build these little complexes over there where everybody lives next to each other. The one building is part of another building. And these are all left in ruins. They haven't been using these for like 50 years. But it looks almost identical to what we're finding on Mars. The same grid. You can actually look down in some of these and see debris, just like you can do here with this other picture. It's pretty remarkable. So this is just showing some of
approximately on Mars are these being located?
Excuse me?
Where on Mars are these approximately being located?
I think in the border
are they all over, or are they in a cluster?
No, we're finding they're in clusters all over the place, like you would have, little cities at different parts of the planet.
Okay.
But where they're found is we found that most of these cities that we're finding, like the parrot is not alone either. There's a whole city next to that, but they're found either 30 to 40 degrees above the equator or 30 to 40 degrees below the equator. The sweet spots, just like you would have on Earth. Those seems to be where that's where all the civilization is. The same thing on Mars, and a lot of these are next to the shoreline, where you would have a port city and things like that. This shows those three main structures. This is interesting because, Dr. Brandenburg talked about bombs going off above ground, and, this is part of the war. You have all these ruins here, and then you have these three main structures. This one here, this is kind of like a wood mill or a barn. It's got a chimney. There's a back porch here. It goes off to the cliff here. There's all these other ruins. This looks like the Capitol in D.C. You have the little dome there, the Capitol dome. This is kind of like a step pyramid that goes all the way up. Very interesting. You see that?
Yes.
This is kind of like what happened at Hiroshima. They dropped the bomb and only this main building was survived. And we see on Mars that everything else here is destroyed, but we got these three buildings. So this may be some of the evidence that we could use to discuss what Dr. John Brandenburg talks about, this nuclear event, finding the xenon 129 in the atmosphere. So this looks like, the remains of a nuclear attack. This is below the Mars city. These are just foundations. This is a triangular one here. There's an arrow-shaped formation. These are just foundations. These have been totally destroyed. This is just showing the outlines. Now, the interesting thing about these, Dave, is that we had our friend James Miller. He's part of our Cydonia Institute. He did all the measurements of these, and he found that, like, from here to here is the same from here to here. It's the same measurements. Everything is the same. This matches the same size as from here to here. And
no
so
kidding.
Say that?
I said, no kidding.
Yeah. And it's
Now,
he
explain
equates it.
Explain the measurement here to here for our radio audience.
Well, if you go from there's a triangle formation here, which is the foundational ruins. And if you go from the back of it, it's actually has rounded corners. It's not like your typical pointed triangle. And the corners are all rounded on all three sides. And if you go from the western end over to the eastern side to the tip of the point, that is the same measurement as the tip of the arrow to the back of the arrow, and a different structure. And if you go from, there's a triangular formation with pointed triangular points, and the same thing, if you go from the back of that to the point of it, it's the same dimension. It's actually the same size as the rounded triangle, as the arrow shape, and the triangle are all the same. Now, these things here are kind of interesting. Are you familiar with fractals? Does the audience know what fractals are?
Yes.
Repeated pattern?
Yes.
You find that in nature. These are fractals. These are all rounded rectangle shapes, I'm sorry. And they overlap one on top of each other. This whole structure here is just freaking amazing. Below that, we have a triangle with this wedge shape overlaid on top of it. So these are all very geometric. Now, going back to this formation here that has the fractals, we're doing a side-by-side comparison of, this is an American Indian ruins on the right side of the screen. The left side, we're showing these rectangular fractals overlaying each other. And on the right side of the screen, these are 4 American Indian ruins of these rectangular shapes that are just one on top of another. They're fractals. And these were found accidentally in Arizona when they were putting a new road in. These are the remains of pit houses that the American Indians built, hundreds of years ago. And they were found while they were, like I said, they were digging up to put a new road in, taking the asphalt off. And they found like a corner of one of these, and they said, "Oh, we got to stop. What's going on here?" And they found this whole fractal area, which is pretty amazing that it looks almost like what we're seeing on Mars. This whole idea of the fractal design of archaeology.
My friend, it is time for us to start to wrap things up here. It's hard to believe we've already rushed through this entire show with you, but I want to say thank you for coming on, George, on Spaced Out Radio. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here.
I feel spaced out myself right now.
All good, my friend. And we want to encourage people to go to your website and make sure that they excuse me, that they get your books there. And if you're looking for the website, it is the Cydonia Institute.com. Space
Yeah,
Out.
or they can visit me on my Facebook. If they want to friend me or whatever, I'd be happy to talk to anybody, privately on the
Spaced Out
Facebook
Radio
page.
with
Beautiful.
your host, Dave Scott.
We'll be right back, everybody. I loved it. Thank you, man.
Well, thanks for having me on. Sorry about trying to get that little plug in the end, but if any of your audience out there wants to, go to my Facebook, I'm happy to talk to people, show them more evidence, and help them with any kind of questions they have.
All right, buddy. You take care, okay?
Thanks a lot, Dave.
That was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Yep.
Take care.
Yeah.
Bye. George Haas, everybody. It was a different show than what we normally do, but that was so amazing. Absolutely so amazing. Great time. I'll be right back, everybody. All right. Let's bring in special guest tonight. You may know him. He's part of the Golden Girls. It's B. Arthur, everybody. There he is.
Hey, brother. How you doing?
Good. Looking good, B. You're looking golden.
You know, you bring out that shine in me every time.
I appreciate that. Rob DeValley, welcome to SOR Chat. Oh, it's Driftwood. How you doing, buddy? How you doing? Polly Rotterman, nice to see you. Mm-hmm. It's all good.
Sounds like an
good.
I didn't get to listen to the whole interview you just had, but it sounded
Fascinating.
really,
Absolutely fascinating.
I've always been marveling at Mars and a lot of the imagery that's kind of gets scrubbed and it kind of gets pushed under the table, but there's some really weird things up there.
Jerence Carter. Why does Dave always look more like Santa Claus the closer we get to December? Wow.
Yeah, the gig's up, Dave.
Jerence Carter. There he is.
Just one time. Just say ho, 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 will you?
Ho, 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 ho. 10 seconds, my friend. We're going to go to Swamp Dweller. He'll be about 5 minutes, okay?
Perfect.
All right. Here we go. Here we go with the final hour of Spaced Out Radio. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. We always appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hey, we want to remind everybody that we have Swamp Dweller coming up and the Q&A with B. Arthur. We call him B around here because his voice is golden. Brent Thomas from the Paranormal Portal podcast is here. So we're going to have some fun with him here coming on up. But first, we want to say hello to everyone tuning us in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Ballatron. Ballatron is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's head to the swamp.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp.
For this next case, we need to travel back to 1992 in the city of Columbia, South Carolina. Columbia is a rather large city with an estimated population residents. It is safe to say in an area with so many people living their lives, it is no doubt that some may go missing in broad daylight. Unfortunately for Dale Dinwiddie, she would be one of the many who seemingly vanish in a crowd of people. On September 23, 1992, Dale and a group of her friends were attending a U2 concert. For those who are not aware or may not know, or were born after 2000, U2 is an Irish rock band from the mid-70s. The show was happening at the ever-buzzing Williams-Brice Stadium, home to the South Carolina Gamecocks college football games. This stadium currently holds over 80,000 people, but in 1992 it had the capacity to sit around 73,000. Still a lot of people. The concert went on until about 11:15 p.m. Then, Dale and her friends decided to head toward the 5 Points area of Columbia. They went to a popular nightclub in the area at the time named Jungle Jim's. It is rather unclear what happened that night, As sometime during the hour and a half they were there, Dale would get separated from her group of friends. Around 1 a.m. on September 24th, the group left the club and assumed Dale had called her parents or had gotten a ride home. Sadly, this was not the reality of the situation. Dale was still in the nightclub, unaware her friends had left without her. Dale could be seen on surveillance footage asking a bouncer if they had seen her friends. Sometime around 1:30 a.m., she stopped talking with the bouncer and was seen walking north on Hardin Street. Consequently, Dale has never been seen or heard from again. Dale Dinwiddie is a Caucasian female with brown hair and brown eyes. She was 23 at the time of her disappearance and weighed approximately 96 to 100 pounds and was about 5 feet tall. She was last seen wearing a forest green sweatshirt, a blue nylon LL Bean jacket tied around her waist, faded blue jeans, and sneakers. Now I realize there is not a ton of information behind this case, but that is exactly why I chose to cover this one, as I feel there is so much being left out or kept from the public. There have been multiple theories thrown around as what happened to Dale Dinwiddie, the most popular theory being, well, abduction or murder. This is the primary theory that most investigators have gotten behind. Some people close to the story insist Dale had to have been taken by someone who knew her, or potentially a stalker or stranger who had been following her for some time. Many have stated that it would be very unlikely for Dale to enter a stranger's vehicle on her own accord, leaving many to think she was familiar with whoever she got in the vehicle with. It does look like the lack of clues in this case indicate Dale's disappearance was likely a carefully planned event. Investigators have gone on record to say, anyone who kidnapped her on impulse would most likely have been sloppy, leaving behind clues. To me, this is not necessarily a solid argument, as with a lack of witnesses, we clearly have a lack of clues, which does not mean the potential abduction was planned or unplanned at all. The absence of evidence does not mean the evidence of absence. I am unsure of where I lean in this case, but I can say there have been a few suspects over the years. A popular suspect who was investigated was a man named Ronaldo Javier Rivera. He confessed to killing 4 women in Georgia and is suspected to have been behind many more. What made Rivera a solid suspect was that he was a violent killer who had lived in the area at the time Dale disappeared. He was even attending the University of South Carolina in 1992. The university is not terribly far from the 5 Points area Dale was last seen. Outside of the possibility of him being in the area, though, no evidence has ever been found linking him to the crime. At the end of the day, Dale and her family deserve answers and closure. Over the years, investigators have followed up on thousands of tips, many of which are somewhat useful, but there are quite a few that border on ridiculous. Many properties have been searched after reports of foul odors and deer bones were dug up. Ground-penetrating radar, scent dogs, and more have all been dispatched and used to aid officials. In lighter news, Dale's dental records and DNA are on record. If her remains are ever found, she will likely be identified. Even though odds are slim that this case will be solved, I see no reason to not share this in hopes of someone possibly knowing something. There is still a $20,000 reward for anyone with information that solves this case. If you, or anyone you may know, have any information regarding to Dale Dinwiddie's whereabouts, please call the Columbia Police Department at 803-545-3500.
Thank you, Swamp Dweller, for another spooky story. If you want more just like that, head on over to his YouTube channel, Swamp Dweller, and hit subscribe, ring that bell, because there's thousands of stories there for you to listen to. Let's go to the Q&A. Well, Lee Strauss is off this time because he is out and about looking for Bigfoot and aliens in the mountains of Washington State. So filling in is the man, the myth, and the golden legend, Brent Thomas from the Paranormal Portal podcast. How you doing, buddy?
Good. I hope I can fill his shoes, but I'll do my best.
Well, you're golden. You got that golden voice, B, and it's always good to have you here.
Oh, it's great to be here, man. I always love coming on your show with you, and I always have a good time. So thank you for having me back again.
Appreciate that. Mars, man. We were just talking about Mars with George J. Haas a little bit ago. I mean, what do you think of this theory that, it's already been a civilization that may have been destroyed?
I'm really into that. I really believe that. I've seen, of course, a bunch of photos through the years from the orbiters and stuff, and of course the face on Mars is, everybody knows about that, but there's a lot of other things that have been found there. I really like that he was. I just caught the end of it again, and he was highlighting like the foundations, and I've seen other pictures like that have allegedly come from the Mars orbiter. And that's not a natural thing. I mean, it's geometrically, angular and square, and that has to be intentional. I just can't buy the fact that it's some kind of erosion or something else. And there's lots of strangeness there. I'm pretty sure, in my opinion, that there was something significant going there. And I've heard theories all the way back to maybe that's where we came from. Like maybe our ancestors started there and then bailed out of Mars because of whatever the hell happened there and dumped us off here.
Yeah, it's very much something that I want to believe, I mean, like, how did we know like centuries ago that this was a violent planet? That's why they named it Mars, for God of War. I mean, then you find out that there's things on there that just cannot be explained, like a lot of these photographs and a lot of these materials that the rovers have recovered. It makes you wonder. I don't know if it does for you, but it really makes me wonder for me, how much do we really know and how much are we covering up from regular society?
I think even here terrestrially, we have the phenomenon known as like OOPArts, the out of place artifacts, where machined aluminum has been found when they're excavating mastodon skulls and things like that. It's like, well, how did that happen? Because aluminum hasn't been around that long, in terms of elemental discoveries. I think it's really, really recent, the last couple centuries anyway. But how did it get down to like mastodon skull level in the strata and the sediments? And other things that have been found that just don't. Now I know some of the OOPArts maybe are scammy, but even here there seems to be at least evidence, I think pretty convincing evidence, like when you look at Puma Punka and other ancient areas that were perhaps legendarily assisted the early man with construction. When you look at there's granite blocks that look like they were melted into place and then solid. And then there are seams that are too tight to even slide a piece of paper through, or a razor blade. And somehow these ancient cultures with Bronze era tools managed to do that when, our best craftsmen would be seriously challenged to complete that even today. So I think that, just speaking of Earth, there's a whole series of histories that we aren't aware of. And then, when you're looking at Mars, which was maybe habited millions of years ago, I don't know what the geological timetable is on that for sure, but stands to reason to me that, there's a lot we aren't being told, or they just don't know.
It always makes me wonder, because I know a big part of science is theory and theoretics.
Mm-hmm.
And it always makes me wonder how some of these theories come about from just, viewing a photograph or something through a camera lens. It just baffles me. Maybe, look, I'm not a smart guy when it comes to science. I'm more than willing to admit that. That's why I took up journalism instead of doing something real in life,
Sure.
But I look at this and a lot of this I just can't fathom. And I'm pretty open-minded guy. But when they're sitting there saying, like Dr. John Brandenburg saying, that it looks like about 1 million years ago, there was some sort of nuclear holocaust on Mars that wiped everything out. How do you get that from still images? You haven't been able to sit there and study the dirt or the compounds within it. You haven't been able to step on the planet to see the radiation levels, even though I guess the rovers could send the radiation levels over. I mean, it just seems so complicated to come up with some of these weird, strange answers, yet we don't believe that there's a civilization out there that's smart enough and technologically advanced enough to fly here.
Yeah, well, I agree. It's hard to know how they got to the assumptions that they got to from photographs. I'm with you there, but there does seem to be ample evidence to suggest. Now, here's the thing. A lot of people say, well, I follow the scientific method. Well, if you truly follow that, and I may have said it here before, so sorry if it's redundant, but I think it's a great argument, is that if you truly follow the scientific method, you have to allow for all eventualities and possibilities until they can be systematically ruled out. And we have a real hubris in our sciences that, well, that doesn't follow what we think, so we're not willing to entertain it. Well, that's already not scientific then. But in following that, I think it's also amazing that they can look at a telescope thousands, tens of thousands of light years away, watch for a wobble in the light and decide that there's planets there. And then judging by the spectrography of the light going next to that planet, they can tell whether it has an atmosphere and what kind of gases are in it. So my God, it's just like, how'd you do that? So I think there's certainly a lot to unpack with all of that, but I think there is at least enough evidence to suggest it's okay to ask the questions.
I would agree with that. Let's switch topics here.
Mhm.
All right, let's go, because Halloween is just, a couple weeks away.
Mhm.
And have you picked out your costume yet?
I'm going as a podcaster. No, I'm not sure. I probably will just put on my wizard robe again and same thing I did last year and go around with my kid while he drags home a bunch of candy for us to eat. But I don't know, probably a wizard. How about you?
I splurged this year and got myself one of those inflatable alien costumes. So I'm literally going to be a big green alien,
Just keep the fart spray away from the vent. I'm just saying.
Well, you know what? I did think about that because, my kid would probably try something silly like that. So the face is exposed.
Oh,
so
okay.
Yeah, the face is exposed. So there is no way I will be caught for something like that.
So either you'll be an alien or a Teletubby, one of the two.
One of the two. One of the two. But it's going to be good nonetheless. And I'm going to take my boy out. Hard to believe, man, that it's another Halloween already upon us. But I want to ask you something.
Okay.
One of the Halloween traditions that a lot of people have, especially people who don't really know about it, is people get out the old Ouija board at this time of year.
Like that.
What do you think? Are you a big fan of the Ouija board?
So here's my take on the Ouija board. I think that I don't know how much time we got, but you're going to get the $10 answer, Dave.
We got 5 minutes.
I think Ouija boards in and of themselves are just a print on a medium, and that in and of themselves doesn't make it any more dangerous than like a placemat for your kid's cereal bowl to sit on, or a seating place. I think that the big problem with Ouija boards, and 99% of the time people will use them and have almost no activity or very little activity or maybe a slight movement. But the risk, I think, is that when you're using a Ouija board, you are putting yourself in a spiritual circuit. You are directly inserting yourself as a blind channel to something to come through you. And I think that anytime you communicate with spirits, you should really know what you're doing, because you don't know what you're dealing with, and you should be able to protect yourself because you're touching a piece of plastic. You're saying, is anyone there like to speak with me? Well, maybe nothing is, maybe something is, maybe that something is really not someone you should be talking to. But I think the problem is that you are creating a contact and you're asking something to come through your energy, your body, in a sense, and work in unison with you to communicate answers. But you're already green lighting something to come through you and into you that you have no idea what it is. So I think anytime you create a blind channel of yourself, it's incredibly risky. And, in esoteric schools, magical practices, any number of divination techniques, usually people are trained and have an understanding of what could be there, how to set your environment, how to open it correctly, open a session correctly and safely, how to deal with the session safely, and then how to close it. And I'm here to tell you, I don't believe that dragging a piece of plastic over goodbye is closing a session. So I think that if you make that circuit happen, you welcome something in, and you also left the door wide open for something to continue to come in.
See, I think a lot of the people who have the bad experiences are unfortunately people who were using it probably at a time in their life where they didn't know or understand the power of the board. Now,
Sure.
do I own a Ouija board? No, I don't. I haven't played with one for well over a decade.
Yeah.
Would I do it again? Sure, I would. Actually, that's a lie. In 2024, Merle, myself, and Samantha used one. Samantha Mullet. And so that was the first time in a decade that I had used one. And I think for most people out there, we're using them without using them properly. And especially, a lot of people had that bad experience when they were teenagers hanging out at a buddy's house and brought out the old Ouija board. Let's see if we could contact the devil. Let's see if Beelzebub will come, put a devil aside for us. Right. Let's get Zozo around,
Yeah.
It gets a little ridiculous.
It does.
And I think people, had those bad experiences because they didn't close the door. They didn't say goodbye. They didn't practice any sort of safety. They were there strictly for the spook factor. Sure. I mean, you've done enough ghost hunting and been around, ghost tours. I've done ghost tours where you get those people who come, they don't care what happens to them. They just want to be scared.
Right.
They want that freak out session just to, think about having some sort of activity. They want that TikTok reel of spookiness to fly at them and hit them on the side of the head.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think a big problem with the Ouija board is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I would agree. I think that largely people look at the spiritual stuff, and maybe it's a byproduct of the fact that, there's ghost shows on every channel, and you tune in and they run around with these things and things happen, and then the show's over, and then, we'll see them next week do the same thing. But there's a lot of stuff they don't address, and that is protecting yourself spiritually and making sure that you have a plan and that you have a system in place to properly document. But I think that largely it's given the impression of this being the newest reality TV, where you just go into haunted places and you start poking around, see what you can find. And there are dark, horrible things out there. And I don't think a lot of times those shows really address the dangers.
I would agree with you on that. And I would agree that the biggest problem that paranormal television over the last 20 years has brought forward is thinking that anybody can do this.
Right.
I mean, not everybody can play in the NFL. Not everybody can act in a movie. Not everybody can drive a car.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of people on the road that probably shouldn't be. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yet ghost hunting, it's like, just buy the gear and go. You don't need any formal training. Learn on the fly. When we come back, we're going to continue the paranormal talk with our good friend, Brent Thomas from Paranormal Portal Podcast.
Spaced Out Radio, and your host, Dave Scott.
All right, buddy.
Cool.
We'll get into the Conjuring house next.
Oh, sure.
That's an interesting story.
Yeah, I kind of, it's been a few curveballs been thrown on that lately, but
Yeah.
somebody's trying to cash in on it now. They bought out the debt from the bank and then they're going to re-auction it. Somebody went, ooh.
Cool Arrow, how you doing?
Zozo's looking in Dave's window.
No Carl tonight. Carl, where the hell are you? Jesus, let's get her going.
So what prompted you to do the alien costume? That's got to be hilarious. I've got to see pictures of that.
Oh, there'll be pictures. I don't mind embarrassing myself like that.
Oh no, I think it's fun. I think that's great. I'll use it as wallpaper on my desktop.
Just get the photo and put it through Chat GPT.
That'd be all flexing and stuff with your alien muscles. Moist. Lots of moist comments tonight.
By the way, for everybody wondering about next year's Caribou Con up here at 108 Mile Ranch, that'll be sponsored by Spaced Out Radio. B. Arthur is going to be here to speak.
I am, yeah.
B. Arthur will be here. So if you want some autographs from B. Arthur, photographs, he'll shake your hand. He'll give you the tip of the cap. When he sees you, he's going to go like this, just for you.
My hair is just a mess.
We're going to be confirming guests here soon.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I've already invited B, and I've told him he's not allowed to change his mind.
No. I'll be there.
Yeah, he's going to make the drive up from Idaho. He's going to bring some Idaho potatoes with him.
That's not really a big thing anymore here.
You're going to have a nice drive, man.
I bet you it's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, man. You got two choices. You could go through Bonner's Ferry north through to Creston.
Yeah.
Where they brew kokanee beer.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever had kokanee beer?
Oh, yeah. I like a good, cool
Best
Coke.
ice cold. Joe Monk in the chat room. What do you think of kokanee beer? I send him a 48 pack one day.
Did you really? Yeah, it's like the beer here. That's the beer.
Oh, there's
Coke.
nothing better than ice cold kokanee.
Yeah.
When it starts to warm up, it's a little bit just like every beer. But when it's ice cold, does it go down smooth? Are you Yeti or Rue Yeti? How are you? Welcome to SOR Chat.
It just slides down when it's cold, just like
especially
hot.
I got a fridge full of near ice cold ones.
Do you really? Oh, nice. When I come up for the conference, we'll have to sit in the studio there and hoist a few.
Oh, man. It's a good time. Yeah, then you just take Highway 5, I guess. No, Highway 3.
Okay.
Highway 3 west to a Soyuz, and then 97 north.
Oh, very good. Are you over by the coast or where?
Oh man, you gotta go way up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you said it's a little.
You're
bit
about an 8-hour drive.
Yeah, it won't be too bad. I can do that standing on my head. I just drove 21 hours to Missouri the other week, so That was a long haul.
Nice drive.
Yeah, but it's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's going to be next when?
September 18th to 20th.
18th to 20th. Okay.
We're going to have the website going next week.
Fantastic.
So, yeah.
Very
It
cool.
shall be good.
I got to speak.
Big thank you tonight to Kitty Caddywhack, Necessary Dialogue, Von Patrick, Deborah Rooney, Area 54 × 2, and Daryl. Thank you for the super chats. Greatly appreciate the love and support tonight. And here we go, everybody. We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you for tuning us in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. We're going to continue the Q&A with Brent Thomas coming up here momentarily. But first, we want to remind you that if you missed most of this show or others, our archives are always free on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. We call him B around here because he's golden. Brent Thomas from the Paranormal Portal podcast joining us for the Q&A as he's filling in for Lee Strauss this week. And interesting story coming out of Rhode Island, where the famous Conjuring house that has created a big-time paranormal horror suspense movie series is now up for sale. And there are many people within the paranormal world that are going absolutely haywire because the owners currently have gone into bankruptcy. They've foreclosed on the mortgage. Now the house is apparently going up for auction, but may have an offer on it, so that way it doesn't go up for auction, but it's probably still going up for auction. And as confusing as that sounds, that's literally what's happened here. Many paranormal celebrities, like Jason Haas from Ghost Hunters, and many others are trying to put together money to try and buy this paranormal museum, this paranormal paradise of a home. Andrea Perrin, who is a child living in that house, has basically said she doesn't want it going to anybody who is going to try and claim major profit on it because of the paranormal happenings there. This has turned into quite a soap opera there, Brent Thomas.
Yeah, it has. I think there's quite a bit of hubris there on her part to say, well, I used to live there. I don't want this to happen. And it's like, well, I appreciate that, but it's not your house anymore. So, I mean, they could make a petting zoo in the living room in there. And if somebody buys it, they buy it and they can do what they want. But I can understand that she has hopes for the property. But I think I'm concerned about the same thing, though, honestly. I think that whoever grabs it, I think is going to make a lot of money or try to make a lot of money on the overnights and the investigation part of it. And I don't know. The thing that kind of concerns me, Dave, and tell me what you think, but I think the bigger these properties get and the more traffic they get, the more played out the activity is. Like I was in St. Ignatius researching and investigating with a friend of mine. And it was it was 2 years ago during the month of October, and it was dead quiet. There was like nothing going on in that place. And I just think that the more traffic that goes through a place, the less likely you are to have activity. What do you think of that?
I would agree with you on that. I really would. And I think that in this case, I understand Andrea Perrin. There's a big attachment to that. Sure. Number one, the Conjuring story never told the real story of what happened. Let's remember, when Hollywood tells you that this is based on a true story, What that means is they've paid off the family to use portions of their story to turn that movie into anything they want.
Right.
And that's what happened. So, for instance, they made Andrea's father look like a real bad guy, and he wasn't a bad guy. But they needed some controversy for the movie, so they did that with the father. Okay, they made the Warrens look like heroes, and yet there was some trouble with the Warrens at the house. Even the latest Conjuring movie with the Smurl family. The Smurl family was not impressed with the way Ed and Lorraine Warren handled the investigation at all. But you know what? Money talks.
Sure.
And the Conjuring family, or the Conjuring series, and whoever owns that, wanted big time to cash in on the Smurl story with a movie, and money talks. And
Sure,
that's kind of the way it's played out. I'm trying to get a date to have Karen Smurl come on this show. She's a good friend. She's done this show about 4 times over the years, 3-4 times. And I want to get her back on to talk about it because I know she's not happy about it. That being said, I understand the passion, that even though the Andrea Perron doesn't live there anymore, there is a solemn love and admiration of history for what they went through in that house. It's kind of like, even the museum down the road. I don't own the museum. I don't have any financial aspect or tie to the museum. But I'll tell you, man, that big Clydesdale barn, I'm protective of it.
Yeah.
Sure. I don't want people going through there because you build something with the spirits that are in there. And when somebody comes in and screws it up, you don't want it to go that way.
Right.
Right. And unfortunately, I think it was comedian Matt Rife was trying to buy the house.
He was trying to buy the Conjuring one?
Pardon me?
The Conjuring house?
Yes.
Oh,
trying to buy the Conjuring house. And now Jason Haas has a GoFundMe trying to put together that house. And they're all saying the right things. Look, we don't want it taken advantage of.
Sure.
I don't know if you could do that.
I don't know.
I really don't.
But you're really right. You're really dead on when you're talking about the whole based on a true story thing. It's like that movie Cocaine Bear. It was based on a true story, but the true story was this plane dumped some of its cocaine down because it was getting overtaken. That part was true. The cocaine landed in the forest and a bear did get into it. But the true story is the bear made it about 100 feet and died of a heart attack. It didn't go on a killing spree. So it's based on a true story, even though it's an absolute fabrication, So I can understand how that must hurt to offer your story or to have it for sale, have somebody buy it and say, oh, we're going to stick to this. And then when you watch it, it's like, but that's not my story. That must be just heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm. Well, the same thing happened with Travis Walton and the guys during Fire in the Sky.
Yeah.
There were only 6 of them in the movie, but there were 7 in the truck. How do you eliminate somebody?
Jeez. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tragic how much liberty they take with those stories to create, whatever it is they're creating. But, whenever it says based on a true story, I'm like, no, it's barely based on a true story.
If you had the money, would you buy the Conjuring house?
I don't know if I would. I mean, I think it's probably going to be grossly overpriced for what it is, notwithstanding the historical value, but I don't know. I don't see. The thing is I think that anywhere and everywhere is prone to be just as haunted as anywhere else. This stuff happens where it happened, when it happens, why it happens. And we don't know what any of those formula are, but there certainly is a history to the house, but I don't know that paranormal activity is locked into a real estate plot. It's just, I don't know. I don't even know what it's supposed to go for, but I'm sure it's going to be grossly overpriced.
Oh, I'm sure it will be, and that's what the banks are hoping on. And the you know, I mean, why not get a
Yeah.
bidding war going? It saves
Sure.
them money, you
Right.
know. But I also understand too the concern that they don't want it to turn into a paranormal carnival.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we see in a lot of these locations. Look at Waverly Hills; it's turned into a paranormal carnival. You
Mhm.
know, a lot of the ex prisons that are now paranormal hotspots have turned into carnival acts. You
Sure.
know, and I agree that paranormal tourism is something that is very important. It's a great way to promote a community. It's a great way to promote history if
Mhm.
you tell the history properly.
Oh,
And I think it's a great way also to raise money for museums
sure.
or local charities or something along those lines. But I think people are also there, and I have to be careful here because I'm a capitalist when it comes to things like this. I
Sure.
don't have problem with people making money as
Exactly.
long as they're doing it honorably.
Yes.
I don't have a problem. Like one of the things that I read with Jason Haas on his GoFundMe account was like we don't want them jacking up the rates for people to have a paranormal experience.
Mhm.
Well, that is not the problem of the ownership or whoever buys it. That's the problem of the people who decide to pay it.
Right.
Okay. There are
Right.
certain things I won't pay a dime for, but there are certain things that I will break the bank account for, even
Mhm.
if I can't afford it.
Yeah. I
And
I
we're all
think
that way.
yeah, I think a lot of people in the paranormal get all pissy when they hear, oh, they're charging, $200 a night to do that. Oh, they just want to rake in money. But it's like another thing that does is it helps to sustain these properties. I don't think people should expect people to invest their own money. Like they shouldn't expect some party to go and invest their own money, fix it up, make it safe, keep it up to code, open the doors and say, come on, everybody, it's free. I mean, everything they do deserve to make an income on it. It shouldn't be taboo to charge money for people to come in and maybe find some amazing evidence, maybe find nothing, but they're creating a space for that to happen. And a lot of people in the paranormal get real turned off by that. It's like, oh, they're charging money, forget about it, I'm not going there. It's like, well, if you had people storming through your house all night with meters and stuff, wouldn't you want to be compensated for that? Because you
Well, not
couldn't live
just
there.
that, but you're having to pay a staff. You're
Yeah.
having to pay
Taxes.
insurance, taxes,
Yeah.
mortgage.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a lot of bills that go on there. Electrical, hydro,
Yeah. But
Wi-Fi signal. It
yeah,
all adds up.
electricity, yeah, lights, everything working, toilets at work. I mean, yeah, the list goes on, and I don't think there's anything wrong with people making money. Now, I've heard some stories of some properties that are like, oh, they want like $6,000 a night for this small little space. And it's like, my God, that's actually gross. That is the other side of the spectrum. It's like it's okay to make some money and
I
to
will I will say this though. I apologize for cutting you off.
no, go ahead.
I know why they do that.
Yeah.
Okay. And just hear me out on this. A lot of these paranormal locations do that because they're trying to keep the riffraff out. Okay. There are a lot of paranormal teams out there that they don't care about what the location says or
Mhm.
what their rules are or regulations are. They're going to do their thing. Give me an example. There is, and we've said this story on this show a few times with Merle. Merle heavily investigates a place called the Bailey House in Merritt, British Columbia. A
Okay.
paranormal team went in there and vandalized it.
Oh God.
So the paranormal team, they're very well known for going into locations on their YouTube channel. Then they do their voice of God thing that they're going to clear out all the spirits and make this place peaceful and spirit free again. So in the Bailey house, going down the stairs into the basement, somebody a number of years ago put a chalk drawing of a angel and a devil, and there was a little saying on that. And in fact, if you watch our YouTube channel, you will actually see that on our opening video. We have a copy of that. And this paranormal group decided that that was evil and done by evil spirits. So without telling the museum, they went out, got a can of paint, and they painted over it.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Well, that's just criminal.
Now they are banned by the location, but this is what, when you have that $100, $200 come, per fee for paranormal teams, anybody could quickly round that up. But not everybody is going to be able to round up $1,000, $2,000 or more. So the museums and the locations who are charging that exorbitant amount are doing it to protect themselves from the riffraff of the paranormal community from ruining their location.
I think they should just get a credit card on file, and any damage goes right off of their thing. But I understand what you're saying, and I don't disagree with you. I just think that, I encourage anybody that's truly interested in this stuff, go out and do investigating. And again, you don't have to go to a famous location. You can do it in your backyard. You can do it at, in your neighborhood, whatever. I wouldn't encourage you to do it in your house, but depends on what kind of activity you want, I guess. But I think that gate is so high that it takes it out of the potential possibility for 99% of the people out there.
I would agree with that. And look, I'll be honest with you. I have a realtor. I have 3 realtors in my little town that I've said, I want the scariest, spookiest property you can find. Because I do want to turn it into a bed and breakfast.
Oh, nice.
Airbnb, a haunted Airbnb. Now, I know that it's going to be seasonal. I know that I'm going to have to charge, a number of bucks, but you know what? If I can help make a living off of that by renting it out at, say, a couple thousand a week.
Oh, sure.
That's a good income.
Yeah. That's fair. Yep. I think that's great. And I hope you do it. That'd be awesome. I'd love to.
They've approached me on 2 properties already, but the problem with the properties was they were kind of like in a countryside subdivision with houses really close by.
Oh, okay.
And that's not really what I want. I want a little bit of property because I want to build like a UFO landing pad in there. And
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, man.
That's cool.
And hopefully it goes on to government land, which we call up here crown land because the king owns the land. Okay.
Oh,
and I want to see if we can actually maybe find an area where there's also Bigfoot activity in that area.
Could you
try and lure them in as well?
Oof.
Yeah.
That'd be epic.
I'm looking for it. But there's a couple of freaky houses around here.
Oh, nice. Yeah, Dave's Paranormal Disney. I love it.
Absolutely. But getting back to the whole Conjuring house thing here, I think that once again, because this is kind of one of the meccas of the paranormal world, if we could use that term very loosely.
Sure.
Others would be Gettysburg, Alcatraz, Waverly Hills, the former Bobby Mackey's, anything that you saw on every paranormal television show the last 18 years. because every show goes to the same location every year. You know, and I think that I do like the premise of it, though, that they are trying to protect the house. They have the house in their best interest.
Yeah, I do too, because I think these locations are important. I mean, it's kind of the legacy in it, and they all tell the story of how we got here, in a sense.
Do you think it would be beneficial for this house to be in the paranormal community still and be as promoted as it should be?
I don't know. Yeah, again, I'm not really a big groupie on these really popular places. I'd love to see them all just to say that I've seen them, but I think anywhere and everywhere can be paranormal. So you don't have to empty your bank account to go find activity.
Well, what is your thoughts? We got about 2 minutes to go. What is your thoughts on paranormal tourism?
I think it's great. I think it's wonderful, and I think it's an opportunity to share maybe a dark history, but it is part of history, and I think that's valuable. That we can't forget our histories. That's a foundation for everything going forward, including the dark stuff. I think it's good for raising awareness, maybe even educating people on how to do it and best practices. I think there's a lot of opportunity in there for teaching, because people won't get it from YouTube or a television show. They'll just get the highlight reel. And I think it's wonderful, and it can be a real bonding experience for people to do it together and families or whatever. But I think that I do get concerned about the commercialization of it and the neglect to really talk about the risks, because I think people just think it's the newest thing.
Brent Thomas from the Paranormal Portal podcast. Thank you very much for filling in for our good friend Lee Strauss tonight. Tell everybody 15 seconds where they can find your podcast.
Best place to go for all the information about the Paranormal Portal is to go to paranormalportal.net. You'll find about the podcast, the live streaming, and everything else that I'm doing.
And don't forget to hit subscribe on his YouTube channel. That works too. And you can be like me, and you can watch every day before this show. As we say goodnight to Brent, and hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal, rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on X at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and Bigfoot Broadcasting Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we're watching.
We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. What do you say there, Golden Bee? You did well tonight, man. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, man. I always love talking to you, brother. So it's very easy and natural, but that's a lot of fun.
Oh, for sure.
I love your show clothes. I love how you've got it synced to the music and everything. I'm just always marvel at that.
That took a while to figure it out, though, dude.
Oh, yeah, but it's just seamless. It's just so smooth.
Some would say it's golden.
And timeless.
Oh, yeah.
It's
By the
great.
way, to all our Canadian listeners tuning on in, my fellow Canadians, happy Thanksgiving to each and every one of you. Have a safe and happy weekend. I will be back on Monday night.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody in Canada. We love you guys down here. What's that?
The death of winter.
What'd you say? What?
We don't do it in the death of winter.
Well, your winter starts a little earlier up there. We're still a little warmer.
Right? What are you up to this weekend there, B?
Oh, just family stuff mostly. I got to get a podcast pressed out. I'm actually presenting at a conference this next weekend. So I'm writing out my presentation and stuff.
Oh, tell us about it. Where are you going?
Wallace, Idaho. It's you saw that movie Dante's Peak, right? Years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's where they filmed it. Was in Wallace, Idaho, and there's a whole paranormal festival going on there this next weekend, and so I was asked to present there, and so I'm gonna go down there and bring the Mrs. Portal and the Minion and probably my dog and go down and talk to people on Saturday. But I'm gonna probably go down there Friday and just have a table set up to introduce people to the shows.
Wow, that sounds like a lot of fun. What are you going to be presenting on?
Kind of I'm putting together a presentation called let me just pull up the title, A Paranormal Survival Guide. So it's going to be kind of an overview of all of the topics in the paranormal, the cryptozoology, ghosts, strange phenomena, UFOs, and talk a little bit about each of those and address some of my own experiences, my own evidences that I've found researching. Just have a good time with it.
Man, are you going to tell everybody, hey, everybody, it's B. Arthur here?
Well, just wouldn't feel the same if it wasn't from you, Dave.
Oh, goodness. The best part about it is your audience is starting to warm up to it.
Yeah, that's that's what you find.
You didn't expect that one, did you?
No, I thought that was going to die off after about a week, but nope, it continues to live. Of course, the liberal applications of reminding that you do helps.
What are you talking about?
Don't
be blaming me for this one, man.
This is all you. Every time you stop in my, hey, B. Arthur, you're golden in my chat. It's like, I always know Dave's here. That's why you are Betty White's, the timeless one.
Mm-hmm.
We're all golden girls, Dave.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
What do you got going on? Are you doing something for Thanksgiving?
My dad's coming up tomorrow,
mm-hmm.
which will be cool.
Oh,
and we're going to let's see, I won't see them until tomorrow evening because my boy plays hockey out of town. And my dad's going to go watch that. Then Sunday morning, hockey, and then we're going to go hunting for a few hours before going to a friend's house for some dinner.
Oh, nice.
And then Monday, we'll probably do a turkey. We haven't really decided what we're doing this year, but yeah.
Well, that's good.
That's the way it is.
Sounds like a wonderful weekend, brother.
It's going to be good. It's going to be good. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Good.
Hopefully I'll get out to the Sasquatch spot. Having a bugger of a time trying to find a new team.
Yeah.
Because Tim was just so perfect.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Yeah, fantastic, dude. But anyways, Brent, I will talk with you tomorrow, 5 p.m.
Yes, sir.
And to the rest of you, thank you. Enjoy the weekend. Sweet Robbie G will be in here this week. Don't forget, Dirty Filth will be taking tomorrow off, but he'll be broadcasting on Sunday. I am back on Monday. Thank you to Area 54 ×2, Daryl, Kitty Caddywhack, Necessary Dialogue, Von Patrick, Deborah Rooney for the great super chats tonight. You guys have a safe and amazing weekend. We'll see you soon. See you, Brent. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right, good night.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
You need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.